when there's no more room in hell.
The dead will start a podcast.
What's the film you're showing now? Why don't you lie to me? I never know.
You know advance.
Take me to your cinema. Automatic speed on. Why don't you
Hello, everybody, and welcome to No More Room in Hell, number 68. This is Mike. Joining me, as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, voyeurs. I'd like to say I'm doing all right, but just about everything in the world is pissing me off today, so then I regret.
Well, we want to hear all about it shortly. So let me introduce our other host, Derek. What's up, Derek?
Yeehaw! What's going on, guys?
Oh, man. I have been working off a nasty head cold this past week. It kept me from most festivities. Not that we don't really do a lot for 4th of July here. So, I mean, here being like my family, not the region. Of course, it goes crazy in my neighborhood on the 4th of July. Just my kids never really cared about fireworks. So it's like, I'm like, well, I'm not going to like spend all that money to like force them to try to like them. So saves me some money. But, so yeah, I've been pretty much just kind of laying around for like the last week and watching tons of movies. Not movies necessarily relevant to like the show today, but just movies that I've had on my watch list for a while. Other than that, yeah, we're on the tail end of a holiday weekend, so hopefully everyone's had some chance to relax a little bit. But that's kind of what I've been up to for the last week. I'm still kind of congested, so if there's any like awkward time mutes, it's probably me like either sneezing or trying to blow my nose or something. So I'll have to edit that after the fact. So hopefully the listeners will never even hear any of that nonsense. But what about you guys? What you all been up to?
Oh, I got a fucking sunburn, the fucking side of I look like a fucking lobster right now. Third day in of it, it fucking still sucks. And plus I have a toothache on the top of it. I had to go to the dentist and get fucking insulin and ibuprofen. So I'm in a fucking great mood too, Mike.
So did you go to like the coast, like a beach or like a lake or a river or what?
I went to Nahant, yeah, Nahant Beach in Nahant, Massachusetts. It's a pretty nice beach.
How far of a drive is it to the coast for you?
It's not that far. It's like the next town over from Revere. It's like a half-hour drive.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was looking for because I don't know these cities. But yeah, half hour. Yeah, half hour is nothing.
Yeah, we did because we got a bunch of beaches like Revere Beach, Nahant. We even go to like Hampton sometimes, and that's in like New Hampshire. The Cape's
Oh,
nice too. Cape can go in a few weeks for a wedding. So
Cape
yeah,
Cod.
hell
Ah,
yeah.
yeah, I'm not close to the coast at all, but we do have a couple rivers in my city with like, there's some beach at the rivers, but
You go surfing?
surfing on the river.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the currents underneath the water in the river are the scary ones. They'll have you surfing underneath the water, which you
Are,
don't want to be doing.
are you a lazy man river type of guy?
We do. So one of the rivers here is more built for that, and I have done it in the past. It's been a while since I've done that, but yeah, we get like a big group, and then like everyone would tie their rafts together to make like one huge raft, and then you'd have all your like coolers and stuff on top of it, and just like float down the river. It's cool. It's really fun. It just sucks at the end because you have to have like someone basically park at the end and then shuttle people back and forth in order to do it, you know? Um, that way there's like a vehicle, like one person's vehicle at the end, but then everybody else's vehicle is back at the beginning. So it's always like lame at the end, like waiting around for that kind of thing. But when you're young, it's no big deal.
When you're young.
Yeah, there'd always be a floating keg stand island guy too that he would let you float up on his on your raft and do a keg stand with his keg, which was fun. Fun times for when I was young. Now I just don't even want to go outside when it's this hot.
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah, I just don't want to deal with it. Like I try to get anything I know I need to do for the day. Like if I have yard work that's overdue, it's getting done like as early in the morning as possible. Like I don't want to like disturb people sleeping, but like by 10 a.m. I'm like I'm gonna do it now. That way it's not too hot while I'm doing it. But Venom, on the other hand, loves this hot ass weather, so I don't know. Maybe he has better stories about summertime. But what have you been up to lately?
Nothing. Move on.
But
No, my wife works holidays, so holidays mean nothing to me. And when you've been unemployed for 21 months, holidays mean even less. So yeah, I did nothing, and I'm not happy about it. So let's move on.
oh, it's gonna be a great episode.
Yeah. You know what? I should apologize to the listeners now, folks. I'm in an extremely bad mood. Like I almost postponed the show. I'm in such a bad mood. I didn't really want to bring down the mood. But we've already postponed the show a few times, and I'm not getting any happier. So let's just fucking do it.
Well,
Okay.
well, that'll make for a great Fresh Cuts episode because we haven't even picked what movie we're gonna do, and there's probably not even a good one eligible because
Probably not.
I haven't spent a ton of time looking, but like from what I've seen, it's gonna be another week where we likely have to just be like, okay, I'll randomly choose this one, I guess, because nothing's really jumped out at me. As like, oh, here's like the can't miss, well, potentially can't miss. Nothing's ever 100% that status, but there's the ones that like you assume are gonna be, but I don't really see one, unfortunately. And and I would like be like, hey Don, what do you think? But that's probably gonna lead to nothing. That's gonna be can't miss either.
It's gonna be like a silent movie. Like
Oh God, I hope not. I mean, I wouldn't mind like if like there was like a fun like absurd creature movie out there that was like available. I wouldn't mind it if it's good. I just there's a lot of terrible ones too. That's the problem. But
yeah.
yeah. The only really thing I did in the past couple of weeks that's relevant to the show is I did go to a convention where I was able to pick up a copy of Four Flies on Gray Velvet, which I was happy about because I believe it's the what is it? Synapse release, I
Severin?
think. Severin, that's right. I had just about given up because it's not that you can't get it online, but it's usually third party or like eBay type places where you're going to be paying so much. I'm
Yeah,
not
because it's like a
paying.
limited release, I remember.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to pay for that. So like I actually had located like another 4K release. I think it's an import. And I was like, okay, I've been holding out for the Sever one for so long. If this booth or this vendor that I know goes to the local con every time, if they don't have it, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and get the other one just because I want it on 4K. And what do you know? They had it, one copy, and it was like a decent price. Obviously, it was more than like it probably was when it first came out, but nothing stupid. So I was like, okay, I got it, and that was mission accomplished. Um, Other than that, there was a good Emily Perkins Q&A. She had some good stories from Ginger Snaps and the set of It. And that's about all I've done. Like I said, I've been sick for the last week, so not a whole lot. Um, But yeah, if that's it, as far as catching up on us, we can now go to catching up on things we've watched in the What We Watched segment. Maybe that'll bring some more joy, maybe not, depending on what it is we saw. So I'll kick it to Venom first. Venom, what have you watched since we last recorded?
All right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead with the obvious choice, as this was a movie that was released last week. Obviously, it did not perform well. And there are many, many reasons why it did not perform well, but it was supposed to be the biggest horror release of the week. But since the movie is not horror, I guess I'll save it for the main show and talk about Megan 2.0. Now, for those listeners who've been with us for a long time, especially Fresh Cuts listeners, you know that we were all kind of, lukewarm on the first Megan. It had elements. Obviously, the unrated version wasn't out in theaters when we reviewed it. I ended up watching the unrated later on. I did actually enjoy it a little bit more. It gave me a little bit more of the guilty pleasure type kills and gore that I like to watch. But the movie really only went up like maybe a half a point, as far as its overall rating. So it's a movie that I was, okay with, mildly lukewarm. So I wasn't excited about the sequel. I accidentally saw the trailer for the sequel. Again, longtime listeners know I don't watch trailers for horror films. So I accidentally saw the trailer for Megan 2.0 and I was flabbergasted. I just was like, what is going on here? They decided to make a sci-fi action movie to a sequel to a horror film, which how often does that actually work? And Jason Blum's response to the reception that Megan 2.0 got is going to be a big topic during our news segment. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on, just so that I don't get too long-winded during what we've been watching. But yeah, I'll have a little bit of something to say about Jason Blum. But ultimately, my friends, the movie is serviceable if you like, kind of middle of the road action movies, then I think you may enjoy it. If you've got some kind of love for the character of Megan, then, seeing her. Well, before I go any farther, I am going to say this is going to be a spoiler warning because I have so many issues with this movie and they involve a lot of spoilers. Derek, have you seen it yet?
Oh, I don't have any intention to seeing this.
Okay, good.
Watching the trailer.
Good. I didn't want to ruin anything for you in case you still actually wanted to see it. But yeah, my friends, first of all, you take a horror movie, a fairly violent horror movie if you watch the unrated version, and you make a sequel that's a fucking sci-fi action comedy, and it doesn't work. I'm sorry, but you're not James Cameron, okay? James Cameron is the only man who can make aliens after the original Alien, okay? That's it. You just stop it. Happy Death Day tried that shit too with Happy Death Day to You, where they made the sequel basically a sci-fi comedy instead of a horror film, and that flopped and killed what was supposed to be a trilogy there. I'm pretty sure that this is going to kill the eventual trilogy that we were going to get for the Megan movies, and I'm on board for it because if I don't have to watch another one of these movies ever again, I'm fine with it. But my friends, I mean, even in the context of just an action movie, it's not even really all that great. Like, think about some of the exceptional action movies that we've gotten over the last 10, 20 years. Stuff like John Wick and Mad Max Fury Road. Like, those are the upper echelon action movies. And then you've got the more middle of the road action movies. Stuff like Boy Kills World, Love Hurts, stuff like that. Megan 2.0 isn't even as good as those middle of the road action movies. Like I'll watch Boy Kills World 1,000 times before I watch Megan 2.0 again. Just so much more action, so much more compelling characters. Ultimately, this movie just fails in storytelling, in world building, in almost every aspect. And then the final kicker, the one that's just the biggest slap in the fucking face, you take a horror villain like Megan and you make her the fucking hero. Fuck you, Jason Blum. When the fuck does that ever work? Can anybody explain to me when that works, when you take a horror villain and make him a hero? I mean, we've had examples like Don't Breathe over the last few years. You can make an argument for John Kramer, Jigsaw, in the Saw movies. I mean, hero might be a little bit of a stretch, but definitely protagonist anyway. You can make an argument for like Candyman. You can make I guess you can make an argument for Norman Bates with the sequels. How they kind of portrayed him as the protagonist in the second Psycho film. So it just there are multiple examples. Probably the best example that I could think of would be Puppet Master. Like with Puppet Master 3, when they took the turn of the puppets becoming Nazi killers, that was kind of compelling. Obviously, we all hate Nazis, or at least most of us do. So, that was cool. But just the whole trend of taking a horror villain and making them a hero. I think most recently we got that with the Rob Zombie 3 from Hell, the Firefly movies, where they kind of made the Fireflies heroes at the end of the third movie, which, of course, I fucking hated that movie. So yeah, just I'm sorry. And like I said, folks, a little bit later on, when we get to the news segment, I'm going to talk a little bit about a hot take that Jason Blum took this weekend and explain to you why he's 100% fucking wrong and has his head completely up his own ass. So yeah, Megan 2.0. If you like middle of the road action movies, go see it. If you actually wanted to see a horror sequel to the first Megan movie, this is not it. Avoid this movie like the plague. I know Mike saw this too, so I'm sure he'll have a couple of things to say. But yeah, this has been
Why?
probably my disappointment of the year so far. Easily, not to say that I was looking forward to Megan 2.0, not at all. I legitimately wasn't. But even with that, this is just by far the disappointment of the year for me, at least in theaters anyway. So that's it for me on Megan 2.0. I hated it.
Oh, I couldn't even get through the first one. Fuck that.
Yeah. I had it down for one of the ones I was going to talk to, but I might as well just add it while it's already the subject instead of getting back into it later.
I'm not that innocent.
I'm kind of torn because, like, it's not that I didn't find the movie entertaining in some way, but to me, the movie was trying to have it both ways because it's like, okay, we're going to do this kind of like absurd, over the top deviation from, I guess, what the first one was trying to be. And I'm not totally against that in theory, but it's like they even didn't even commit to that 100%. They almost half-assed that. They also, it's one of the big, or I guess like a bigger discussion on like how franchises work. And the problem with Megan is like it's not really a full-fledged franchise at the second movie because my thoughts were I started to see like a similar opinion kind of form in like the days after it released where Megan 2.0 almost feels like what you do for a franchise when you're kind of out of ideas or you're like, hey, we've been making like the same sequel 3-4 times. What are we gonna do to like go sideways? And you totally do something different with it. But this is only the second Megan movie. It's like it's way too early because it's like now it's like what did you think you were making Thanksgiving 3 here? Like no, it's a freaking mega movie.
Imagine.
Yeah.
It's funny that you call this the second Megan movie because I call it the last Megan movie.
Well, I hope so. And I agree. Like they obviously, like everyone said, they tried to do the T2 thing and make Megan a good person, but it's just dumb. It's kind of dumb. Like
It's too dumb for its own good.
Character motivation's dumb, and still, yeah. I don't really have a whole lot to add. Venom kind of summed up everything I'm thinking about saying it too. It's ultimately why we were like, we're not doing it for fresh cuts because it just didn't even try to be a horror movie. Like, it's not just that like it was less horror. They just basically abandoned the idea of it being horror at all. And whatever. It's an action sci-fi movie. I don't even necessarily not like action sci-fi movies. I mean, like something like Total Recall is like one of my favorite movies ever. But this ain't
watched that like 4 times this week.
Yeah, you should never. Don't ever mention Total Recall and Megan 2.0 in the same sentence. Ugh.
Yeah. I don't.
If Quaid
see...
just came and killed Megan, it would be amazing.
Yeah, I don't see a reason for another Megan to happen, and especially now that it underperformed, because that would have been the one
shocker.
That would have been the one, I guess, contrarian like
Make it a
happenstance.
Conjuring universe.
Yeah, if it would have happened to make tons of money to being bad, then you'd almost say, well, we're getting another one anyway. But with it underperforming, they might say, yeah, no more.
Maybe,
Which I hope.
maybe they'll get Mike Flanagan and make like a Ouija prequel.
Oh,
Well,
Mike.
they tried to do that with the Exorcist Believer sequel, and even that he couldn't even salvage that because that's canceled now too. So
Yeah, because he's got like that Amazon money. He's like, I'll just stay there.
yeah, I mean, I didn't want him to do that anyway because I'm like, dude, I'd rather. Well, I guess his thing is like Stephen King adaptions, which is fine, but I also just want original stuff from like all these new kind of like top horror directors and writers. I'm like, I don't want you wasting your time just doing adaptions. Like, you guys make really good original stuff. Not that like there's
And
not influences in your original stuff, but still, like I just find it more interesting, like to
it's
bring your
crazy
own
that he's
story.
fucking he's writing a Clayface movie.
Yeah, but like that to me, that interests me more than like if he was like, oh yeah, I'll do like the Exorcist Believer sequel. Like,
Oh, no.
yeah, it's like okay because it's you. I'm mildly interested, but I still wasn't even that. It's not like I did a 180 on the idea of Exorcist Believer getting a sequel because
Anybody ever see that Al
Flanagan is
Pacino
attached.
movie? The Al Pacino horror
We
movie.
we we just reviewed it.
Yeah,
Uh,
unfortunately.
Hoorah! Hoorah!
Mhm.
Uh, think of Ozzy yesterday, and that was Al Pacino in Ritual.
Oh,
But
that's Robert De Niro in like his last like three movies.
uh,
Yeah, check out the latest episode of Fresh Cuts, guys, to get our specific thoughts on the ritual.
All right.
all right, Derek, what do you got?
I got one that was on. I was looking on Netflix. This was some shit because there's always some weird, random foreign shit on there. And I checked this Indonesian film called Sumala out. That was pretty cool. Pretty much the general premise of Sumala. It's about like this little town where it starts out with like these kids are starting to get murdered by like this very, very disturbing zombie child. No doubt this child is evil. It's got like fangs and decayed skin. And then they're like, oh, and then they blame the other kid that was the other kid was with. Like, oh, he did it. No, no. And they're like, it was the smaller chick. There's one guy, it's like that fucking old guy in like the old Godzilla movies. It was this guy, one of like the crazy Ralph. Oh, it was that chick, Samala. And he tells like the backstory of Samala, where she was born from like a weird like ritual where her mother went to like this town shaman lady and had like this ritual put on her because her husband said to her, if she doesn't start producing children, I'm just gonna find a new bride. It was like that type of story. Kind of interesting with like that folklore aspect because it goes from past to present day in this sense of the movie, and has some cool like set pieces. And if you like Indonesian horror movies and you've seen them, it doesn't do anything like new and out there, but I had fun with it, like for a late night watch. So I say check it out if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a little long. I mean, it's almost 2 hours. I don't think they actually needed the
Yeah,
full 2 hours to tell that story, but overall, I enjoyed it.
What's the
yeah,
name of it?
Sumala.
Sumala,
Oh, okay.
Sumala.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it came out last year. It was a candidate for Fresh Cuts one week, but then I think something theatrical came out, so we ended up bypassing it.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it's not bad. I mean,
yeah,
the little girl does look great. Great makeup design on the zombie girl. Yeah, absolutely. And it's on
yeah,
Netflix,
yeah.
so
I
yeah,
agree.
check it out.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Venom. It might have been a little tad too long, but for what it was, like a browsing watch on Netflix, I wasn't mad at it. You know what I mean? If I paid for it, I was maybe a little bit angry.
Yeah. Okay. So my first one up is a 4K I recently purchased. That's going to be a recurring theme because recently I've been purchasing stuff because of the Criterion sale. But
Mike's buying shit. He can't say shit anymore.
dude, you don't even understand. Like I'm almost ashamed of myself, but but this one is actually not related to the Criterion. I bought this one a while ago. It's just that since we've had to postpone a few times, it's not new anymore. But it's De Palma's Body Double, and I hadn't seen it in like a long time, and I forgot just how like kind of off the rails the movie gets, but like to me in a good way, because it starts kind of like a almost like a riff on like a Rear Window type situation where our main character like catches some activity going on. So you think, okay, we're gonna get like your little murder mystery, but then it just kind of opens up and becomes like almost like a fever dream at times. And early on in the movie, we get one of the best cameos ever by a young Barbara Crampton. If you guys remember, that's like, whoa, I forgot that that was her in the movie. I mean, I think she's in the movie a total of like two scenes, but her first appearance is quite memorable. And yeah, it's funny because what was it, last year or the year before when Maxine came out, and we were thinking of like all of these like influences that like went into that movie that it did way more poorly. And as I'm watching Body Double, I'm like, holy shit, like there's a lot of stuff I feel like Maxine tried to like lift from this movie, but did it in such like an unsuccessful way. And I'm like, because Body Double has kind of like that murder mystery with a struggling actor in Hollywood, and things like go sideways when you think that the movie's gonna be one thing, and then it just goes totally different. And it's kind of following his like I guess young kind of volatile career, because like I think what he gets fired from in the first place is more like a B movie. He's not like some big A-list actor. He's kind of like struggling to make it in Hollywood. Um and through a lot of the movie I was like, oh, damn, like the whole story of Maxine feels like very similar to this. Obviously, there's other movies that Maxine took from as influences, and it wasn't just Body Double, but like to me, if I had to pick one movie, I'm like, wow, it really feels like Ty West was watching this movie and was like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. But this, I think this was coming off the heels of Dress to Kill. I'm not sure if there's another movie in between, but um, Dress to Kill was kind of more straightforward. Although there was like a twist in it with like the killer and all that. You almost, if you go into this one like not knowing anything about it, you almost could sense that, oh, it's going to be a similar type movie. But no, this kind of opens up and does a whole lot more. That might turn some people off. Like it might not be there might not be universal praise for it because of that, but I found myself kind of like liking it. And it's probably because I haven't seen it in so long that I forgot kind of just where it goes outside of like
Well, it
the,
says the guy from Dream Warriors in it too, so that helps.
oh yeah, the
The
Bill
doctor.
Maher lookalike.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is him. Yeah, the doctor. So maybe he had to switch industries after Body Double and go to med school.
Imagine the same
But
character. That'd be amazing.
oh, that'd be hilarious. I'm assuming both of you guys have seen Body Double. Any thoughts on it? I mean, not the 4K specifically, but just
It's been a while since I honestly seen it. I kind of do want to probably pick up that
I,
4K eventually.
I've never seen it.
oh, okay. Have you seen Dress to
Mhm.
Kill?
Oh, I
Yeah.
own Dress to Kill. I fucking love
Okay,
Dress to Kill.
Yeah, I got the 4K of that shit. Fucking awesome.
yeah. This is Body Double's kind of right smack in the middle of that De Palma run right there. What was it, like late 70s through like the end of the 80s, where
The Dennis Franz trilogy.
Dennis Franz, yeah, it kind of feels like that run. De Palma was kind of can't miss at that point in his career, and like every movie felt different because Phantom of the Paradise, I think, was not too far after this one, and that one is kind of bonkers too. Um, But yeah, I would say check it out for sure if you haven't seen it. And the 4K is beautiful. So back to you, Venom.
All right. I'm going to continue my theme of talking about non-horror films, but this time it's actually a good thing. This is a film that dropped on Hulu just a couple of weeks ago. This is an animated film, and it is, of course, based on one of our favorite aliens, the Predator. So, of course, I am talking about Dan Trachtenberg's Predator, Killer of Killers.
Oh, I loved it.
This is an animated anthology film. We've got 3 stories. And my friends, I mean, the things that can't be done on film when doing a live action that can be done in animation is all in this movie. All 3 of these segments are spectacular. You ever want to see a Predator go up against Vikings? You've got it. You ever want to see a Predator go up against samurai? You've got it. You ever want to see a Predator go up against a World War II flying ace? You've got it. I just, all 3 segments here are so spectacular. I personally have been waiting for a Predator story in feudal Japan. For those who don't know, I absolutely love all things Japanese culture, sports, music, just about everything. Movies, obviously, duh. I've got 2 Godzilla tattoos on my body, so yeah, that kind of gives it away. But to finally see the Predator going up against samurai, I swear I had an erection like the entire segment. I absolutely loved it. The movie is violent. It is gory. It like I said, it gives us anything that you've ever wanted to see in a Predator movie: over the top kills, over the top gore, different classes of predators. I mean, you get it all in this animated movie. It's only an hour and 25 minutes long. It's a quick watch. It is, as I've already said, written and directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who wrote and directed Prey, the last Predator movie, and he is, of course, directing the new Predator movie, which will actually hit theaters this time. So yeah, that's going to be awesome. But yeah, my friends, this is literally one of my favorite movies of 2025 so far. I've watched it 3 times. I think I watched it for the first time like 2 weeks ago, and I've watched it 2 more times since. It is an absolute joy. If you are a Predator fan and were kind of hoping that the movies would go a little bit more over the top, a little bit more bombastic, then this is the movie for you. Fuck Alien versus Predator. Let's, not talk about that franchise more than we have to. But yeah, Predator, Killer of Killers is spectacular. And it ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, which I know I've kind of spoken to on the past as not liking. But in this movie, it absolutely works. The little bit of a cliffhanger that we get at the end, whether they make another one or not, it's still a great ending, and I'm very happy with it. So, yeah, Predator, Killer of Killers. I can't recommend it enough. If you're a horror fan, if you're an action fan, if you're an animation fan, this one hits, it definitely ticks a lot of check boxes. So I can't recommend it enough. I'm going to assume both of my co-hosts have seen it, so I'll let them talk a little bit now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I loved it. It was great.
Best sequel since the second one, I think.
Honestly,
Prey is really good too.
Oh, Prey is great. Yeah, Prey is great. I actually prefer Prey to Predator 2. That's just my personal opinion. I like the whole Native American thing. I like the lack of technology. It just all worked for me. The city, the big city setting of Predator 2 was kind of cool at the time, but I don't know. I feel like it maybe didn't age as well as it could have as the jungle setting of the original. But yeah, honestly, with the release of Killer of Killers, Predator 2 is not even in my top 3 anymore for Predator films. I will solidly take Prey and Killer of Killers over Predator 2. And I love Predator 2. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike it. I like it a lot. It's just the other 3 movies are just head and shoulders better, in my personal opinion. So, yeah.
I'm no comment. I'm still a huge fan of Predator 2 because, to be fair, honestly, without it, we wouldn't have a lot of the stuff we have now. You know what I mean? because
Oh,
that's
of course.
the
I mean, always respect your history. Absolutely. And like
yeah.
I said, I do like Predator too. I don't want to disrespect it in any way, but it is off my top three now with the release of Killer Killers. So that's all.
Top five definitely for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Coked
for
out Gary
me,
Busey, you know.
yeah, for me, it's like obviously the first one is the best to me, and then between Prey, Predator 2, and Killer of Killers, that kind of rounds out the Predator movies that I care about. It's just that the order I'd have to like watch them, close together to like really have a hard opinion on like which is like 2 through 4. But outside of those four, I don't really care for the other ones. Like they just don't
Adrian, you know,
really
like the
interest
Adrian
me.
Brody one.
Nah,
It's,
not really.
I think it's all right, but you know, the Shane Black one's the worst one for me. It's not really his, like it's somewhat his fault, but then it's also like the studio involvement's fault at the time of that movie. But you know, it's just you could tell that like it is a jumbled mess that one.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it kind of went the way of like the Jurassic Park franchise, which another 4K I recently watched. Although I've had that one sitting on my shelf for a year, I just had never sat down to watch it, but I did a couple days ago, and it just reminded me of like how a lot of original movies are just so good that they spawn these franchises, and it's just so hard to recreate the magic of the first one. Like you can get like decent like popcorn movies as sequels, but I don't know what it is. It's like the stories, the characters, there's almost like a simplistic nature to a lot of the OGs that like they just can't replicate, and they replace it with other aspects. And it's not that there's zero entertainment in like additional entries, but they just can't they don't have the ability to make you care about the characters or anything. And like the original Jurassic Park, it was pretty simple of a premise, and like something about the wonder of like seeing the dinosaur. And like I think, oh man, I don't know if it was a director or someone made the comment like, well, I guess audiences just because they were talking about the performance of the latest one, I guess, and they're like, I guess people just don't care about like dinosaurs anymore. And I'm like, no, that's not it. It's just like they just don't care about mediocre movies, whether it's a dinosaur or whatnot. It's like you can you can keep people coming back based on the headlines for so long, like, oh look, another Jurassic Park movie, but eventually the mediocrity is gonna shine. Like it's just gonna shine through, and people just aren't gonna care as much. But I don't think it's the fact that people don't care about killer dinosaurs or dinosaurs on a rampage anymore. You just got to make a good movie. And it's like maybe go back and like the people that want to make sequels, put away your, automatic high tech machinery and military that comes in to save the day, and go back and watch the first one and understand like this is what audiences loved, and try doing that again, and maybe you'll have more success. But I don't know.
I don't know because I actually like the newest. Spoiler alert! I actually really
Well,
enjoyed it.
the thing is, it's like it's not. So it's like I try to like be fair about it because it's not that they're like terrible movies. I just think like there's a reason. Like to me, Jurassic Park is a certain level, and then everything that came after it drops significantly. Even if I call it like just kind of like an entertaining summer popcorn movie, to me, there's just not much beyond that. Where the first one, I would say yes, it's entertaining. It's the summer blockbuster kind of prototype, but there's just something more to it in like the characters, the story, what you like. You actually, it feels like there's stakes to it. Like it's just like I don't know. It's like the peril that the characters are in, the what they have to like figure out to solve the problems. It's not just like I don't know. There's something better to. I don't know. To me, it's just like better quality than like what comes after. And a lot of these, because there's kind of like that. what is that? Like you always got to go bigger and better for sequels, and I understand that to a certain extent, but that doesn't always make it better just because you're going bigger. And I think a lot of times sequels suffer for that because they're like, oh, we got to have more dangerous dinosaurs and more like we got to make up these new types of dinosaurs that are even more dangerous. I'm like, no, I think being chased by a raptor is like pretty high on the danger scale. That I don't need a super raptor that's even more dangerous than a regular raptor. Like, no,
Oh, wait till you see the Raptors in the new one.
yeah, like I don't think that's what makes a movie better. Now you could have that in your movie. I'm not saying that you can't have success doing that, but I think that those types of things replace the non-dinosaur things about like the original that made it such a good story and memorable and why it holds up versus a lot of these other ones where it's like, okay, you go to the theater, you see it once, and it's not something that like you want to like keep watching over and over. But that's just me. I'm just one
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, I hear you. And to be fair, like I did have complaints about it. Like it does suffer the one thing that a lot of the Jurassic Park movies do suffer from is who the fodder characters are right away in these movies. That guy's gonna be lunch.
Yeah. Um,
But it was actually shocking how they were done in that sense too.
yeah,
Like
I feel like part three, they tried to like
they killed the
model
guy
it.
from Air Bud right away.
Yeah. I thought Jurassic Park 3 tried to like go back to modeling itself after one, but it just wasn't as strong of a story. But they tried to go back to like, oh, look, it's a family and we gotta rescue, but they couldn't recapture the magic there. But anyways, that was like a rant that I didn't plan, but it just happened to work out because I was already kind of thinking about that when I watched Jurassic Park and thinking about, damn, how many? What is are they? Was this a seventh or eighth one that just came out? Jurassic World, whatever it was
Six.
called, Rebirth, was it?
No, seventh. Yeah.
This is 7. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is part of the World ones, right? It's now called Jurassic World.
Yeah, it takes place like in the future. It's like post Dominion, like maybe like 15 years, maybe. It's kind of cool because, well, if you know Gareth Edwards, he always like has that like thing where he does like this minimalistic like character development, but it's mostly facial expressions in most of his movies, where these characters live in this fucking world.
Yeah.
which he does that a lot. Like even Rogue One, he did, and it's nothing new.
The last one I saw in the theater was whatever one Chris Pratt was like training raptors, and all I was
That was
thinking,
the first Jurassic World, yeah.
okay, yeah, all I was thinking was like, please eat him. But I knew I knew he was gonna survive because it was Chris Pratt. Like they didn't pay Chris Pratt to die in the first scene, so that's not gonna happen. But
And then you saw Vincent D'Onofrio, and he's like, "Oh, he's dead."
yeah, you know?
There's no way he's running from a raptor.
Venom. Have you seen all the Jurassic movies?
Not the new one yet.
Are you like a fan overall of the bigger franchise?
Not particularly, no. I'm not that big a, I mean, I like watching documentaries about dinosaurs, with like CG, art and stuff. But as far as movies go, I mean, I like Jurassic Park. It's a masterpiece. That can't be denied. But yeah, dinosaurs just aren't really my thing. Obviously I go see almost every movie big release that comes out, whether I really want to or not. Just because, with the wife working nights, I have all my evenings to myself. I have an AMC A-list pass, so I don't have to pay to see anything. So I'll see it. I'll probably see it this week, maybe even tomorrow, because I have no plans for tomorrow as of right now. But yeah, I'll see it eventually.
Is this Derek? Is this one like a supposed to be wrapping up, or is this like the start of a new direction? Or
Oh, they're getting into like weird like mutant shit now. It's fucking kind of interesting.
does this feel like because Chris Pratt wasn't in this one, was he?
No, it's Scarlett Johansson and Marshall Ali.
Is are th- do they? I don't know. I don't know if I should ask because maybe it'll be a spoiler. Because I'm trying to figure out, did they use this one to like pivot and like position like, okay, this is the new person taking over? Or did you not get the feeling?
No, no, no. It just feels like it's like its own like separate like story. You
Okay.
know, like I don't know if it's like setting up anything. It kind of
Uh,
wraps up night. Like they do like this thing where I honestly like sometimes the plot might be a little bit stupid what they're actually going there for because it's like to make like this like a new drug, which
Mm.
interesting because like the habitats of like dinosaurs and the way they survive in certain equations to make like a heart disease medicine. It's kind of interesting in that aspect. Where like you feel like it's like in that like post COVID world with the stories going in where were dealing with like a situation that vastly rapidized like a lot of like the dinosaurs. And you know, it actually takes place like near the equator too, which is a kind of cool aspect because they were saying
yeah.
like the dinosaurs were migrating to the south of the equator because it was more like their tropical habitats like back in the day, which kind of makes sense. I think they was going to go that way anyways. But the best scene involves the T Rex. I don't really spoil it because the T Rex does something that I never expect a T Rex to do in this movie, and it kind of blew my mind. I was like, "Oh, what the fuck is he doing?" I don't want to really spoil it, but it was kind of cool how they used the T Rex in this.
Yeah. I would have taken my kids if they wanted to, but they still haven't even seen the original, so I got to get them to watch that. My oldest has been on a Final Destination kick lately because,
The littlest one's gonna love Dolores. I won't spoil who that is.
well, she has 6 movies to watch before she gets to this one, so we'll see.
She'll love Dolores. That's all that matters.
Well, actually, this one I could probably take them to see this one because if it feels like its own thing, yeah, because Jurassic Park for the most part, you don't really need to see the other ones,
Yeah,
but
it's like in that world, but it's like its own like separate entity kind of deal.
yeah, each one is kind of a self-contained. So I think once in a while there's like references like to like the former parks or whatever, but other than that, they're usually self-contained.
And that was my
Uh,
review of Jurassic Park and my what we watch. So what did you watch, Mike? Who's next? I don't even
yeah,
know
what
who you
did
are.
I think this started with me talking about Body Double, right? Or did I already kick it back to
No,
Venom?
no, it's Derek's turn. I
Oh,
just finished
okay.
Predator. Well, you
I
guys
Ah,
just
finished
okay.
Predator for me.
well, I'll just add that as a Jurassic World review because I saw it. So there you go.
Yeah, I
Mike, what'd
guess
you watch?
dinosaurs killing folks qualifies, so all right. So my next one is one I actually saw that I talked about some on my appearance on the Vinegar Syndrome show with the 22 Shots guys. So, for anyone that's unaware, it's Moods and JP and Tyler, and then this other guy, Tony. They do a monthly, I guess I would call it a sideshow or sidecast called the Sin Bin, which they take Vinegar Syndrome, their monthly releases, and they all pick one, and then they pick an additional movie to do like the featured review. This past episode that's currently up, which was the June episode, Dirty Work, the Dirtier Cut was the main feature, so everyone bought that. It was the first time they did a comedy, so I did the right timing because that's a great comedy. But and then my individual pick was one called The Wait, which it's a Spanish film from 2023, and it really is a few different genres combined. I would say it's revenge thriller mixed with folk horror. There's some body horror. There's a little western flavor to it, and the basic setup is our main character. Um, he wants to move out of the city, so he has this meeting with this big landowner, like big property owner out in the kind of middle of nowhere to be the property upkeep guy. He's going to kind of oversee hunts that the owner sanctions on his land. People come to use it to hunt stuff, and I think he has to commit to like 3 years of it, then they're hard up for money, so he takes the job, and then one day comes this like hunter guy that wants to contract for like a hunt with his groups, but the amount of people in his group oversees the amount that the property owner would allow, just I guess for safety reasons, like so people aren't shooting at each other accidentally. And he offers him like tons of money, and he basically has to make a decision. Am I going to take the money because it's framed that he's not making a whole lot of money in this job. It's more like, well, because you get a house to stay in, that's kind of like part of the fact of why you take this job. So like it, in theory, I guess would help you save the little wages you're getting because you're not paying like a rent, I guess. Um, so he has to make a decision. Obviously, because it's a movie of like revenge and folk horror, you can kind of guess the decision he makes. I won't outright spoil it, but let's just say because of a decision he makes, it sets off um, a series of events and murders and mystery. And what was kind of cool about this movie is like when it gets going, initially you think, oh, it's going to be a pretty standard like revenge thriller with some twists. But then as it goes on, some strange occurrences start happening, some things get discovered, and it's like, oh, here comes some like folk horror. And then by the end, we get some cool body horror and we figure out what exactly was going on this whole time. And it's like, wow, this is really well done. And I literally knew nothing about this movie beforehand. I just looked it up on Vinegar Syndrome's partner. They have a partner section, and I looked it up and it looked interesting. Just based on like the synopsis, that made me think it was a revenge thriller and a Spanish movie, and the trailer. And from the few reviews I saw, it seemed pretty well liked. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give this one a chance. And man, if I would have seen this the year it came out, it probably would have been on my top 10. That's how much I liked it. I just had no idea it existed. I'm guessing I probably wouldn't even be able to find a copy to watch anyway. So that goes without saying. But I highly recommend it. Like blind buying, something I don't usually do. I did it for the show's sake. So I can't necessarily tell everyone go out and blind buy it. But if you can find like it streaming, definitely watch it. It's called The Wait.
It's
Obviously,
on Amazon Prime.
yeah, I'm sure the Spanish titles, whatever it translates to.
No, it's called The Wait on Amazon Prime. It's currently available. I just looked it up.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I thought it was great. It's definitely like a slow burn because things unfold slowly, but I think it's totally worth it. I think the acting in it is great. The stakes keep getting higher as more occurrences happen, and it kind of the way it kind of like, how can I put it, like everything kind of comes full circle based on decisions and actions taken, and it's good. I even think it's one of those movies that like would get better on a second watch, because once you realize what was kind of pulling the string on things, and the second time you watch it, you can kind of get an understanding of like, oh, okay, yeah, there was opportunities possibly to stop or reverse course, but everything went the way it did for a certain reason. And yeah, so The Wait, go see it. However, like Venom said, it's on Prime, so that's definitely one way. But back to you,
Is
Venom.
The Waiting by Tom Petty the theme song?
Yeah.
Oh, why'd Mike mute himself?
Oh, I said back to you, but maybe I said it quiet.
Yeah, you said it after you muted yourself.
Oh.
So for my last movie, let's finally go ahead and talk about a horror movie, but I'm still not going to dive too deep into horror because I'm going to pull out a horror comedy for this one. Now, I was last weekend. I was bored, looking for something to watch. I kind of was in the mood to watch something that I hadn't seen before, and I'm on Amazon Prime, which I hadn't been on for a while. So I figured, let me jump on Prime. I'm paying for it, so I might as well actually use Prime Video. And I ended up finding a movie from 2019 called Hilarious. Not hilarious, Hell, Hell, Arius. So hilarious. This is a horror comedy anthology film. This movie consists of 7 shorts. All, of course, are horror comedy. Some of them are better than others. I think overall the movie is, I don't know, maybe average to maybe just slightly below average. It is a very independent film, shot on video. No actors that you would recognize, anything like that. But I will say that some of the segments were legitimately funny. There was one segment called Killer Cart, where literally a shopping cart finally got sick of being abused by shoppers and getting left out in the rain and literally came to life. Yes, my friends, a shopping cart came to life and started killing all the shoppers in this particular store because it just finally, had enough of shoppers' bullshit. And when you actually see the cart, the way that they formulated the mouth on the front of it, it's actually kind of funny and kind of clever too. So I'll give it credit for that one. We've got a segment called Horrific, which is kind of it's almost like a kaiju story, but not a giant kaiju, almost like a smaller one. But it's about a goat farmer who basically has to defend his home one day from some creature that's attacking him. And once you actually see the creature at the end, it's kind of funny, it's kind of poignant, it makes sense. So that one wasn't bad. There's a segment called Till Death, where 2 men decide to kill each other's wives, do a crisscross type thing. But then something happens and the wives don't stay dead. So literally their zombies come up from where the husbands buried their bodies. But they can still speak. They don't even know that they're dead. Like, literally the husbands freak out and the wives are like, what's the problem? And then slowly the wives do start to decompose, which actually adds a little bit to the comedy as well. And, that one, the ending is a little bit iffy on that one, but it's all right. A very short segment called Death Metal, where a heavy metal musician finds a cursed guitar. Literally, the body of the guitar is a pentagram. It's in the shape, a pentacle, a pentagram inside of a circle. And the guitar comes with 3 rules. So it's very Gremlins-like. Unfortunately, our idiot musician didn't notice that there was a list of rules, and he literally breaks all 3 of the rules in like the first minute that he plays the guitar, which of course, there's repercussions there. So like I said, I think that's like a 5 or 6 minute segment. Literally, it's a quick one. Another one of my favorites is called Lunch Ladies. This is about 2 women who have the dream of becoming Johnny Depp's personal chefs because they created a recipe. Yeah, they created a recipe. They named it something that had to do with Johnny Depp. They sent him the recipe and he ended up loving it. So literally the segment takes place the day before they're about to fly to California to share some more recipes with Johnny Depp, to try to become his personal chefs. And then something happens at the school, forcing the lunch ladies to maybe do something a little nefarious. I'll leave it at that for now. And of course, they do eventually get to Hollywood. We don't get to see Johnny Depp in the movie, of course, like Johnny Depp would touch a movie like this with a 10-foot pole, but it is a pretty funny little segment. There's a segment called Bitten, which sounds like it's going to be a standard lycanthropy story, but it's reverse lycanthropy. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything else about it. It is reverse lycanthropy. You'll have to watch the segment because I don't want to give it away. It's pretty entertaining. And then the last segment of the movie is called Born again. This segment is where a bunch of absolute idiot Satan worshipers, like they're basically just dumb, like early 20-year-old kids who think they know about Satanism. They try to perform a ritual, and to their shock, it actually works. And the segment just kind of goes on from there. So, yeah. I can't praise this movie necessarily. It entertained me for whatever it's worth. Like I said, 7 segments. The movie is maybe a little over an hour and a half, so the segments aren't all that long. And like I said, some of them are legitimately funny, like the killer cart and the lunch ladies one. Those 2 segments had me laughing out loud. I actually enjoyed them. The other ones are, kind of hit or miss. So, but at least, you're getting a nice variety too of different types of horror. You're getting body horror, creature feature, supernatural. You're getting a nice little mix of stuff. So, I'm not going to give this a high recommend because, like I said, it is very independent. You've got some bad acting to deal with, maybe not the greatest screenwriting, things like that. But ultimately, if you're forgiving of independent horror and like horror comedies the way I do, I would recommend it. Like I said, it's available on Amazon Prime right now. It is called Hilarious, coming to us from 2019. I'm going to assume neither of my hosts have seen it because I didn't even know this existed until I found it.
I have not seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen the movie listed like when browsing, and it might even be on my watch list because of the name alone, I was like, oh. But that's how it is with watch lists. You add something because it looks interesting, and a month later, there's like 50 other movies sitting on your list too.
Exactly, I know. I got like fucking 400 shows on my Netflix when I'm never even started yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't call Hilarious like essential viewing by any stretch, but like I said, if you have an Amazon Prime subscription and you like horror comedy anthologies, you could do a lot worse. So there you go.
Nice. Well, on that note, I'm going to end out with a banger because I finally I've seen it for a while now because we were supposed to record this show for a few times, but I've seen the movie Sinners finally. And that movie fucking ruled.
10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah. Fucking Irish vampire, greatest villain ever.
Yes.
Man, I honestly thought that the whole edgelord thing was kind of over, people hating popular things just to hate them. But the amount of people that hate Sinners, I don't understand it. Like, I just don't get it. Where is the hate coming from? They give us an original story with spectacular acting, great effects, a fucking score for the ages. I mean, not just the best score of the year, a fucking score for the ages. Potentially the best horror movie score since Hereditary, in my personal opinion. This thing is amazing. How people don't like this movie, and I'm even talking about podcasters in our own circle that don't like this movie, and I'm just like, what fucking movie did you watch? I don't understand it. So yeah, sorry, Derek, go ahead.
No, yeah, I agree. Like something like even on my post for it originally, I'm like it sucked. I'm like, yeah, how did it suck? Like, and like it's a fucking people are fucking stupid sometimes.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't understand. Like, if you want to say,
it's probably angry Wakanda Forever fans. That's probably what it is.
Well, if someone wants to look through it purely through like a horror fan lens and say, I didn't think there was enough of that, okay, whatever, but that doesn't make the movie not good. Like,
exactly. Well, that would be a valid reason, though. If somebody actually came to me with that, that's valid. Most of the people that are saying they hate it have no valid reason to say, they're just like, oh, I just didn't like it. It's stupid. It's like, okay, well, then you make a vampire movie then. Let's see how stupid yours is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but even like it's not horror enough. Okay, if they just in general aren't fans of like hybrid genre movies or genre bending movies that mix and match genres, okay, fine, but there better be consistency in that opinion. Like, not that I'm going to grill anyone because I don't care about talking to strangers about it, but like, like if we were arguing about it where I can actually have an in-depth conversation with you guys about it, yeah, there might be some consistency where like that's just not the style you would prefer like I want my horror movies to be pure horror. Okay, whatever. But still there's also the point of view of looking outside just that and just saying as a movie overall, you didn't think it was good. Like I don't get it. Like
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh, and by the
what
way,
wasn't good?
the podcaster that I'm thinking of that said they hate Sinners absolutely loved Megan 2.0 and said it was one of their favorite movies of the year. So that might tell you everything you need to know.
Oh my god.
You're gonna have to tell me who that is when we're not recording because I don't.
Yeah,
I don't want to put anyone on blast, but I'm just
no. That's why I'm not naming names. Everybody's opinion is valid, but if you're gonna tell me that something sucks and then not give me a valid reason, you're just gonna reply with, "Oh, it just sucks. I hated it." Then your opinion doesn't mean shit, and I don't need to talk to you anymore. So, just if you don't, everyone is free to like and dislike what you want. I will never ever try to force my opinion on someone, never ever. But especially in the podcasting circle, the fact that this person that I'm thinking of is a podcaster, someone who's been podcasting longer than me, and I'm almost at 10 years now of podcasting, but that's the way that they explain their likes and dislikes. Yeah, that's where I start to lose a little bit of respect for certain people. But ultimately, if you don't like something that's universally loved and you have valid reasons, cool. I'm not going to argue with you. Absolutely. So, yeah, what are you going to
like, okay.
And my 4K gets here on Tuesday, so I'm happy anyway.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's also on Max now, which...
Yeah, I bought it on Prime. I'm like, I got to watch this right away. I don't even give a fuck. It's only $5
I saw...
more,
Yeah, exactly. I saw that it dropped on HBO Max on 4th of July, and I thought about watching it, but it's like, I don't have HBO in 4K. I also don't have ad-free, so I'd have to deal with commercials, and Sinners is not a movie to be interrupted by commercials, so I'll wait for my 4K.
Clean.
Sammy!
All right.
He's fucking great. I can't wait to see him if he plays Clayface. I heard rumors that actors might be playing.
Yeah, that actor's turning into a great villain. That's like his second great villainous role.
Even
the first one. Yes, thank you. So yeah, Remick was just awesome. Even though he doesn't really abuse the whole vampire thing, he's not like flying around constantly or doing stupid shit. It's a very subdued.
Oh, he's making all black people dance Irish. That was amazing.
I loved it. That's what I mean. The dichotomy of that scene is so brilliant. And man,
my favorite quote of the movie actually tells you how old he is when he says it. When you're doing the "Ah, Father" at the end, and he's like, the man who took my father's land said those words to me, and like because he came from Ireland, so it was like. So when the English came and brought Christianity over, that's kind of a cool aspect to think about.
Absolutely. The Church of England. Do some history, folks. If you want to see an evil organization, look up the Church of England.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of layers to the subtext. Like it's not it's not like your basic like good guys versus bad guys, because I think there's a lot more going on there with like the Irish.
Yeah.
Plus fucking Ludwig got fucking Jerry Cantrell to do the guitar of the fucking vampires evil theme, which is fucking amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's like I've already talked about the score, not just the music that the people are performing in the movie, but the actual score is stellar. Yeah. But yeah, I mean for a movie, Sinners is obviously my number one of the year. Nothing is even close. But for a movie like Sinners to be solidly a horror film, along with other genres as well, but for it to be solidly a horror film, and my favorite scene in the movie has nothing to do with horror, it really speaks a lot to this film. Yeah. Sammy's song. I'm sorry, but I can watch the clip of Sammy's song fucking on a loop. I love that entire scene
through the fucking town.
With all the different dancers, all the different dancers throughout history. People from the future, people from the
Funkadelic,
past.
fucking guitar player.
And the whole scene starts with Delroy Lindo and his little monologue about, being able,
She win a
about
fucking Oscar.
musicians. Oh my fucking God. I'm sorry. That movie, I'm going to watch it right now. I fucking love that movie.
Do you smell anything? Because I think I just shit myself.
Oh God, Delroy. Delroy is just amazing. I mean, he's amazing in everything he does, but it feels like he was tailor-made to be Delta Slim. So yeah. Who, by the way, is a real musician for those who don't know. Look up Delta Slim. He actually existed.
Yeah, and fucking Buddy Guy at the end.
Buddy Guy as old Sammy was just the cherry on top of my awesome Sunday. So yeah. I mean, Ryan Coogler, just goddamn. The fact that he's an established director who never really did a genre film and then he busts out with Sinners, just holy shit. Amazing.
Yeah, you know when like your least favorite Ryan Coogler film is Wakanda Forever because of the situation that was involved with it.
Kinda, absolutely. But I mean, I still watch Wakanda Forever more as a tribute.
Yeah, obviously, I liked it.
The man isn't.
To be fair, I did like
film,
it,
but yeah,
I'm not like like all those other Marvel fans. Yeah. All the other Marvel fans like fuck this movie. They should have just recast. I'm like, it's not about that,
Oh no! Why would you recast? God damn it! Like I'm actually kind of pissed off that they're going to recast Balin Skull on the second season of Ahsoka. You remember Ray Stevens? I don't know if you guys watched Ahsoka, the Star Wars series on Disney Plus, but Ray Stevenson played Balin Skull to a fucking T. I mean, he was Balin Skull. I just couldn't get over how good his performance was. When I heard he died, I figured, please don't recast it. And yes, they are fucking recasting it. No one that they get is going to be able to do what Ray Stevenson did with that character. So whatever. I mean, the argument to recast, no, fuck that. Like that's the best tribute you can give to that actor is to recast the character.
Don't get me started with that. Is because they fucking recasted Jimmy Smits and fucking Andor. With Benjamin Bratt.
I don't think about that. I try not to think about it anyway.
He's not even dead. That's the fucked up part.
Yep. Terrible. All right, where are we?
Me. So yeah, for my last pick, it's going to be a couple. I'm just going to throw them together because I'm sure movies everyone's seen many times.
Boy.
Yeah, let's just make the longest what we're watching segment even longer.
Yep.
It's the longest one ever.
A couple more 4Ks I got. The Zombie 4K by Blue Underground, which ruled. Looks great, sounds great. Fulci in 4K. What else can you say? And the other one that I want to talk about more was the Sorcerer 4K that I also picked up on the Criterion 50% off sale.
Wow, I'm going to start talking about Thunderbolts now. That's right.
Right?
Sorcerer rules. And this 4K, to me, is a great example of how you remaster a movie from the 70s without removing the integrity of what movies from that era look like. Sometimes when they remaster those movies, it takes away a little bit of the grit of the look. But this one, no, it still looks like a 70s movie. It just has this pristine kind of quality to it, and the sound is great. And Sorcerer is also one of the better examples of how to remake an already good movie, because The Wages of Fear is a legendary movie in itself. And William Friedkin said, I'm going to take that. And actually, I think Friedkin, his intention was to just do another adaptation of the same novel. It wasn't so much a remake of the movie, although you can say it was, but he just wanted to adapt the novel in his own way with slightly modified story, but the basic setup's the same. And, I'm not going to get into all that because I'm assuming these are movies that people are well aware of. And if not, the director of The Exorcist making kind of like a thriller movie. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite Friedkin movies outside of The Exorcist. So if you haven't seen Sorcerer, even if you don't want to get the 4K, just watch the damn movie. It's really good. Have both of you guys seen Sorcerer before?
Yes.
Nope.
Holy shit, Venom Sea Sorcerer. It's. Have you seen Wages of Fear?
I think so.
Okay. Well,
Oui. Uh-huh.
yeah. Wages of Fear is it's excellent. As I think Wages of Fear might even be rated higher, but they're both rated really well.
Anyways,
Anyways, the Criterion sale's still going on, so I'll be your paid rep of Criterion today, I guess. So that's gonna wrap it up. I did see what was that movie? What was the hell's the name of it by Spielberg's daughter? That's on Tubi. Like, Don't Feed All the Children or something like that. I
Yeah,
kind of
don't
like
think
half.
Regina Carl Esposito.
I kind of oh yeah, he's in it. Gustavo's in it. I kind of half
Saw the
watched
ad,
it.
yeah.
It was all right. I mean, kind of like a more. I called it more because I think that we were actually considering that for Fresh Cuts, either this past episode or the episode before that when we didn't go to the theater. But it was kind of more dystopian than straight horror, which I know there can be elements of horror in dystopian movies, but we didn't go with it. It was okay. It was all right. I mean, I guess Spielberg's daughter is like, I'm gonna start from the bottom and work my way up because
Yeah.
Spielberg's name didn't carry all that much if she's starting with a Tubi original. So take that for what it's worth. Not, I mean, when it comes to Tubi originals, though, it's still probably above what most of the movies that are slapped with Tubi original would be. Like, if when you're watching it, it's like, okay, there's actually ability here. It's just that you're only probably going to get so much of a budget and resources to make a Tubi original. But
Damn. Mike's did like 5 movies in 15 minutes.
yeah, hell yeah. I have so much listed because of the postponement.
I did this. I watched the psychological.
Yeah, stop
movie.
buying so many fucking movies.
Yeah, the fuck, Mike.
Jesus.
Those are,
Or at least stop talking about them. Jesus.
Jesus Christ. We watched the psychological movie Thunderbolts Asterisk.
Psychological.
I'm going to use that as an excuse.
Thunderbolts. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the What We Watch segment. So,
Go,
what do we got
Bob.
for news, if anything?
All right. Well, let me go ahead and get this off my chest because I'm extremely pissed off at Jason Blum. Obviously, I talked about Megan 2.0 earlier. We all, well, you know, Mike and I, who've already seen it, talked a little bit about some of the shortcomings with the film. Jason Blum actually had a little bit of a hot take this weekend after the movie absolutely tanked in theaters. Now, for a little bit of history, the first Megan made 180 million worldwide at the box office. Megan 2.0 has a budget of $25 million, and it only made $10 million on opening weekend, which is extremely low, well below projections from both Blumhouse and even just the, you know, cinema organizations around the country in general. Jason Blum, appeared on the podcast called The Town this past weekend, and he made a pretty hot take quote that kind of irked me, but let's see what you guys think about it. Jason Blum says, and I quote, "We all thought Megan was like Superman. We could do anything with her. We could change genres. We could put her in the summer. We could make her look different. We could turn her from a bad guy into a good guy. And we kind of classically overthought how powerful people's engagement really was with her." So that's the end of the quote. Basically, that's Jason Blum blaming the fans for the lack of success on Megan 2.0. And my friends, Jason Blum has his head just completely up his own fucking ass if he's going to sit there and blame the fans. He made a bad movie, period. Well, not that Jason Blum makes the movies, but he hired someone to make a bad movie. And then he has the unmitigated balls to blame us as the viewing audience for the lack of popularity of this movie. Jason Blum, let me be the first to say, fuck you. How fucking dare you blame us for you making a shitty movie and expecting it to make $50 million when you changed the genre, you took a villain and you made it a hero, and then you give us a subpar at best action movie, not even a good action movie. So yeah, I absolutely take offense to Jason Blum. Obviously I've had problems with him in the past. There's a lot of Blumhouse movies that I enjoy, especially early on. Stuff like Saw and shit like that. Oh wait, Saw was Lionsgate, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, they just bought Saw.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. But anyway, yeah, the point is early on, they were putting out some decent stuff, some original stories. Over the last 5 to 10 years, Blumhouse has absolutely lost their way. I mean, they're giving us shit like Tarot and Night Swim and just absolute garbage movies. And now he gives us, yeah, just generic as hell. I mean, literally the definition of generic. And then he has, like I said, just the fucking balls to blame us as the audience. My friends, I saw Megan, and Mike saw it too. So Blum got our money at least. And obviously we're podcasters. We thought we might have to review it because if I didn't think I had to review it, I absolutely would not have gone to see it, especially because I accidentally saw the trailer and saw that it absolutely is not a horror film. There are so many opportunities in this movie where it could have been horror. And specifically it's with the villain, Amelia, the other AI that gets created in Megan 2.0. There could have been some great scenes. Yeah, there could have been some great scenes with her stalking people, killing people violently. But no, again, he wants to make a PG-13 movie to get as many people into the theater as possible. And it backfires on him because if the movie only made $10 million and movies cost around $20 to go see, you do the math on how many actual people went to see the fucking movie. Next to nothing, considering this thing opened on like 4,000 screens nationwide and only made 10 million. I mean, my screening was empty. I don't know about Mike's, but mine was.
I got a story about this movie. I didn't see it, but like we went to go see with my nephew and his dad. We went to go see like fucking Thunderbolts Asterisk, and fucking we saw this trailer in front of it. My nephew goes to me, he's like, I don't want to see that at all, ever. That looks terrible.
Yep. Your nephew's a smart boy.
Yes. Like most of the money probably went to the use of that fucking Britney Spears song in that fucking trailer, let's be honest.
Oh God. And the biggest, I mean, there are multiple travesties in this movie, but one of the biggest ones is I have to listen to Megan sing a whole fucking song, not just a chorus, not just a verse, a whole fucking song to what's her face? I forget her name already. Katie's adoptive mother. Really? You made me sit there for 5 fucking minutes and
Allison
listen
Williams.
Thank you. I forget the character's name, and I don't really care to remember, so it's not a big deal. But I mean, I'm sorry, Jason Blum, but what the fuck were you thinking about? I mean, did you actually watch this movie before it came out? I'm starting to think that he didn't actually watch it, that he just gave it to the director. And who's the director? I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Gerard Johnston. Who I don't recognize. I don't recognize that name at all. But
I don't know. I think he's on the fucking like the ad I always see on YouTube for this movie. Go see Megan now.
Wait, so based on the quote you said, do you think? Because I'm like, okay, is Blum trying to say that? Oh, it's not a bad movie. It's that audiences weren't willing to have their expectations subverted. Because to me, that's a bunch of bullshit. Because there's
I don't think it was a subverted.
Well, there's
like I said, he specifically.
But there's tons of movies I go into expecting it to kind of be a certain way based on the trailer, and it ends up going sideways or totally different, and I still end up loving it because it's just a good movie. And the fact that they wanted to kind of experiment with the formula of Megan, I can understand why that would maybe jar a couple, some people's opinions on it. But if it still ended up being like a good action sci-fi Megan movie, that ultimately would shine through in like the majority reaction. Of course, there would be detractors that would not be happy because it's not a horror movie, and I understand that. But if it was still good at what it did, then subverting expectations would not be an issue. My problem is it's almost like he's trying to excuse a bad movie and saying, well, it's the audience's fault for not liking it. And I'm like, you're an idiot. If that's what
that doesn't make sense. It just Yeah, we've had this before where directors and producers will, basically try to champion a movie even though it tanks at the box office or the critics pan it, whatever the case may be. We've had examples of it in the past, but this is egregious. I mean, this is you literally made a bad movie and then you're going to say that the fans aren't as engaged as you thought they were. First of all, Mike had a valid point earlier on when we were talking about it during the opening segment. This isn't really a franchise. It's one movie. You made one decent movie, not even necessarily good, even though a lot of people did think it was good. It made $180 million.
The fucking
But
dance made $100 million.
Yeah. So, like I said, if just for a producer or a director to blame the fans, that just shows how out of touch that person is. He literally doesn't think his farts smell. You know what I mean? He literally thinks that everything that he puts his name on should be a success. And that is such a pig-headed way to look. Because anybody who spent any time in Hollywood knows not every movie can be a hit. Some movies, they get panned, they get forgotten. Maybe they'll become a cult classic during home video release, a year or two later. But even if they don't, it's expected. Not every movie can be a hit. So yeah, Jason Blum, I now officially hate you. I didn't hate you before, but now it's official. I mean, how fucking dare you look me in the face and tell me it's my fault that Megan underperformed? Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and on top of that, like the reaction coming out of the first movie, even for the people that liked it more than us, the main criticism kind of across the board was like, you could have at least made kind of like your pulpy over the top R-rated like killer robot movie here. And then even if it wasn't good, hey, at least we got like these crazy kills from this maniacal robot. And it would be what it is. So then you get to the second movie, and it feels like the same neutered product, just action sci-fi instead of horror. So it's like, why wouldn't you expect the same criticism to come over when you basically put out the same product just of a different genre, but it still felt like the same instance where you were pulling punches on you like there were scenarios in the movie that were set up well enough, I would say, that if you let them actually pay off, like the way you were setting them up, it would have had me like more satisfied with the movie. But
It brought you in.
You did the same thing. You pulled the punches just because it's action sci-fi, just because you think, oh look, we can do anything with Megan. Well, except make like an R-rated good movie. Like you can't seem to do that with Megan for some reason.
That's funny. Yeah, but and like I said, the fact that he thought people looked at Megan the way they would at Superman. Are you kidding me? Superman is like an 80-year-old character. Superman has literally been ingrained in pop culture since the last fucking century. And you're going to compare Megan to that after one movie, which was, good, I guess, but not great. Like I said, Blum, I'm sorry, but your head's in the clouds and you need to fucking come back down to earth and, and understand.
Must especially, be a Snyder fan.
Maybe, but I'd rather pay money to see a Snyder movie than a Blumhouse. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is that the economy is shit right now. People don't have the money to frivolously go to the movies all the time. Obviously, we're podcasters, so we kind of have a responsibility.
Yeah, most of my movie goings usually whatever my fucking nephew wants to see. Not lately, anyway. So it's like.
Right. But as far as like the three of us on Fresh Cuts, we have to watch new horror movies as they come out, whether we think they're going to be good or not. And ultimately, like I said, Jason, you released a bad movie. You put out a bad movie. Don't blame the fans. Blame your writer and director, the people that made Megan 2.0. And the other thing, how fucking dare you call this Megan 2.0? This movie is so removed from the original. It's not Megan 2.0. It's like a Megan verse side story or something. Like Megan 2.0 makes it sound like you're getting mostly what you got from the first movie. Nope, not at all. So yeah, sorry, you failed, Jason.
She's taller, so that's a 2.0, I guess.
Oh yeah, and that's the other thing that I found kind of silly is that to accommodate the actress who plays Megan and the fact that she's grown over the last 2 years, they make Megan say, oh, and I want to be taller. It's like, oh, isn't that convenient? It's too much. It's just
I'm
so
not
bad.
that innocent.
She's all Megan's like, oh yeah,
Ah.
one more thing. I want to be in a different movie.
Yeah, really. Can I be in Sinners?
Imagine.
Ah. Anyway, yeah. So that was all I wanted to say. I mean, obviously, I went on a little bit of a tirade there. Obviously, I've never met Jason Blum. I don't really hate him, but I hate his decision making. I can't fucking stand
Oh,
the fact that this guy is making millions of dollars off of our backs and then blames us when one of his movies fails. Like, that's just fucked up. No thanks to the fans when your movie's a success, but all the blame when the movie's a failure. That's just fucked up. So yeah, that's it. I'm done.
like
Yeah, because if you look at the Blumhouse model for most of their movies, it's a it's a low stakes kind of game they play with. They put into it, and they just want to return the profit. So he has to assume that once in a while that that formula is not going to work out, and they probably put too many chips in the Megan bucket, thinking,
yeah,
oh
he's like a
well,
fucking shitty Dino De Laurentiis.
yeah, there's a reason most of the Blumhouse movies don't turn into franchises because they just aren't good enough to like launch.
And now you say that they're gonna announce fucking Imaginary too.
Oh God, or Tarot.
No, Tarot 2.0.
Or another random Blumhouse movie about like a phone app that God.
Countdown 2.0.
Did they do that one?
I don't know, but it was such a shitty movie. I assume they made it.
Yeah, or like I don't even know. I'm sure Blumhouse has done one of them, but there's been like so many like home security AI gone awry movies. Like
They did that Afraid movie. That movie's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
I started to watch that on fucking Netflix. I'm like, shut this off now.
Good call. I should have walked out of the theater, but I had to finish it.
yeah, because there's actually Blumhouse movies that don't even make it to the theater. Like it's like they randomly just pop up on VOD, and you're like, I don't remember hearing about this one, and then you watch it. And you're like,
Thankfully,
yeah, now I know why.
Thankfully, not every Blumhouse
it's like
movie
one of
can
those
go to
directed.
theaters.
It's like those directed DVD Miramax movies. Some of those weren't great either. Children of the Corn 5. Fields of Terror.
Stalking audiences now.
That one's weird too because it's got Fred Williamson and David Carradine.
I don't really have any news. I kind of already got my rant out of the way about.
Kathy Griffin's going to be in a Brain Scan remake. You saw that news?
I saw that picture. Is that legitimately her? Like,
yeah, that's her without makeup. It's fucking terrifying. She looks exactly like the guy from Brain Scan. It's fucking weird, right?
Yeah,
Good casting, I guess.
I bought that a couple times, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
One other thing I did want to say, just in case there's any Leprechaun fans out there, there is a new Leprechaun fan film that's actually made by a couple of the guys that produced the Terrifier trilogy. It's called Leprechaun Revenge. It's available on YouTube. It's actually really good. I was actually surprised. It might be my favorite. It might be my second favorite Leprechaun thing ever, and it's a fan film. So yeah, it's called Leprechaun Revenge. Check it out on YouTube. It's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
It's its own thing. Like it has nothing to do with the other Leprechaun.
It's like a
movies?
fan movie. Yeah, it's kind of
it's a fan
like
film.
It's like a Never Hike Alone. Like it's like that style.
Well,
I mean, it's not even as high budget as Never Hike Alone, but yeah,
what's
it's
the
still
approximate runtime?
Oh, it's short. I don't remember. It's short. It's not a movie.
Okay, it is a
fan
short,
films are almost always short. They're almost always under an hour. I think this thing's like maybe 20 minutes. Maybe. It's been a couple of weeks since I watched it.
Okay, yeah, I want to look that up and watch it then.
Congrats to Keith David.
It actually has a couple of people that were in Leprechaun movies too, like actual actors that were in legitimate Leprechaun movies. So it's pretty. It's kind of the Never Hike Alone formula. They brought back Tom, what's his face,
or like the other one, the other Friday the 13th one where they had like C.J. Graham and Steve Dash in it.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of like that. And like I said, it's made by the producers of Terrifier, so there's probably some good money into it. It looks decent. So yeah, check it out.
Ah, check it out.
And yeah, that's it for me. Kind of a slow news
Yeah,
month.
yeah. Congrats to Keith David though for getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That was pretty cool.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah. I'm gonna try to go to that ceremony. It's next year, so he gets his star next year. I'm literally 15 minutes from the Walk of Fame, so I'm gonna try to make it. I tried to go to Jamie Lee Curtis's, but it was so fucking packed. Jamie Lee just looked like an ant in the distance.
Yeah.
But maybe the Keith David one won't be as crowded. So yeah, I'm gonna try to go to that one too.
That's cool.
Hell yeah! If I was in the area, I'd try to go to it too.
Hey, let's make a plan. Let's do it.
Road trip.
I just like walking around Burbank.
Live.
I like walking around Burbank and inauguration. Is he going to be president? What?
Imagine he should.
Well, he's president on Rick and Morty.
I would vote for Keith David.
I would not, but that's a different conversation.
I don't know.
I'm never voting for an actor. I'm never voting for an actor to be a politician ever again. Never, ever.
Oh,
ever,
I hear you.
Ever. Ever.
Forever.
And the thing is I'm becoming a crotchety old man, and I'm actually taking politics more seriously now. I mean, well, as seriously as you can take politics right now, fucking clown show that it is right now. But yeah, the older I get, the more I find myself caring.
Oh, Mike, you know,
I don't even know why. Yeah,
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, let's change the subject. I hate politics.
No, what you're going to do is have Sam try to call in and go on his rant.
No.
Oh my god.
No.
I left the chat for like 10 minutes and that happened. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Shout out to Sam Edwards.
Stop reading those Reddit chats, Sam.
Alrighty. Well, if that's it, then we're going to take our break before our main feature. This format's a little different, and Venom, since it was your pick, why don't you lay out what we're doing and explain it a little to the listeners before we break?
All right. So for this episode, rather than doing our traditional 2 feature reviews, I wanted to actually have a little bit of a discussion on a topic that I can't really totally wrap my head around. And, hoping to get some feedback from my co-host. Also, the plethora of feedback that I've collected over the last couple of weeks while doing research. So, we're going to have a lot to talk about. But basically, what we're going to talk about this week is the fact that back in 1960, 2 proto-slashers were released by British directors. One of them, of course, is Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. The other is Peeping Tom, directed by Michael Powell. Now, the topic of this discussion is going to be, why did Peeping Tom destroy Michael Powell's career, yet Psycho, a movie that's arguably much more intense, somehow elevated Alfred Hitchcock's career? This is a topic that I never truly understood. So, like I said, I kind of wanted to talk about it, get it out there. I have an entire list of potential reasons why Peeping Tom destroyed Michael Powell's career. And so we're not going to actually review Psycho. We've all seen Psycho multiple times. I don't think there's anything that any 3 of us could possibly say about Psycho that would be new and different. But we are going to go ahead and review Peeping Tom as a feature review. And then after that, we're going to discuss the legacy of both films and the directors. So that's our topic for this week.
Sounds good.
Love it.
And we'll be right back with all of that.
Look out! Look out! Look out! Take care. You are being watched. We repeat, take care. For you are now alone with a killer. We warn you, don't let him see the fear in your eyes. For this is what he seeks, and this is why he kills.
Where are you? Where are you?
Look out for Carl Byrne as the Peeping Tom. Fear him, but pity him also.
no good.
Watch out for Moira Shearer as the lovely stand-in who innocently dances into danger.
Imagine someone coming towards you who wants to kill you, regardless of consequences.
A madman?
Yes.
Wait!
Anna Massey is the girl who falls victim to the charms of the lonely stranger upstairs.
Switch it off, Mark! Mark, switch it off!
Maxine Audley as the blind woman who senses the danger that threatens her and her daughter, but is helpless.
Don't be frightened.
Not frightened. What? So put that camera away!
There is no future for anyone who tries to befriend him. He invades the privacy of innocent people till the piercing eyes of his camera meet the terrified eyes of his victims. And with a compulsion akin to madness, he shoots the final, fearful scene.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. Promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go! And now, on with the show.
All right, folks, we are back, and we are here to talk about Peeping Tom and its effect on Michael Powell's career. Now, we brought up Psycho. I'm only using Psycho as a comparison, obviously, as Psycho probably being, probably the most popular horror film of 1960, or at least the most critically acclaimed. So I figured I would compare the two, two British directors released in the same year. And obviously there's a lot of differences, both with where it was released, with backstory on the making of this stuff, and critical reviews and audience response and everything else. So let's go ahead and talk about Peeping Tom first. So we're going to go ahead and actually do a feature review of Peeping Tom. Now, folks, before the break, I talked about how I didn't really understand why Michael Powell was getting so much guff over Peeping Tom, and there's actually a pretty good reason for that. And the reason is I have never seen Peeping Tom. Yes, this was a first-time watch for me. It's a movie that I've heard talked about for decades, and talked about how subversive it is and how uncomfortable it is and things like that. But I just never got around to watching it. So when I made the correlation that both of these movies were released in 1960 by British directors, and that they had vastly different results for the directors' legacies, I figured it might be a good topic of discussion for this one. So let's go ahead and get into our review of Peeping Tom first. As I've already said, it is coming to us from 1960. This movie was not rated on initial release back in 1960. It is 1 hour and 41 minutes long. Directed by Michael Powell, written by Leo Marks, and it stars Karl-Heinz Baum, Anna Massey, and Moira Shearer. And, we'll talk about some of the performances as we get into the story. So our synopsis is as follows. A young man murders women using a movie camera to film their dying expressions of terror. Now, one of the things that I really was taken aback on watching this a couple of weeks ago for the first time is how this movie could kind of be looked at as the grandfather of found footage movies, even though this is absolutely not a found footage movie. But we do spend a good amount of time in the film looking through a camera lens, seeing what our protagonist, and I'll explain using the term protagonist here in a little bit. As we follow Mark through his adventures in this movie, and we look, as the audience, we look through the camera lens a lot. So it kind of struck me as, wow, this is kind of like a precursor to found footage. So I appreciate that. The movie itself is gorgeous. I mean, the use of color, just the film stock that they use, the camera that they use, it has that 60s and 70s UK aesthetic all over it. Bright colors. Like, I even like the fact that they picked a redhead as our main female protagonist, because the color was all bright, and her with her pale skin, it was just like a nice contrast. So yeah, the movie looks gorgeous. Obviously, it's the subject matter that is the controversy for this one. But before we even talk about any controversies, let's get into some general thoughts. And let me go ahead and bring in Mike first. So Mike, tell me a little bit about Peeping Tom. Was this a first-time watch? Overall opinions, general thoughts? Go ahead, buddy.
Technically, it wasn't a first-time watch, but it's been so long since I've seen it, it felt like a first-time watch because I didn't really remember much. When I first put it on, like, the first thing that immediately kind of brought back memories was, like, the color scheme. It's pretty vibrant, and, like, because Psycho came out the same year and we're kind of doing mild comparison, that was the first thing that kind of stood out stark different, was like, oh, lots of vibrancy in the color scheme. I mean, it's 1960, so we're kind of at the beginning of the 60s, but you kind of see I don't know if it was in Technicolor or not, but it kind of has that Technicolor look. And this one, it takes it. The interesting thing is it has some of the same themes as Psycho, like as far as the voyeurism. But this one, you kind of follow the actual killer the whole time, and it's almost like from his POV in a way, almost like what the hell was that slasher in A Violent Nature? How, like, oh, we're getting the POV the entire movie from the killer himself. Well, this one, instead of having, like, this big twist and story behind the reveal and all that, it's like, no, from pretty much the beginning of the movie, you are on to what's happening. You're following it the entire way through. Now, I will say, like, the narrative choice in this, I think this compared to a movie like Psycho, I think it makes this for a much tougher first watch, just in my opinion. I don't know what you guys have to say about it, just because, like, it's such, like, a different type of narrative. You're not really creating a story around, like, other characters so much as you're kind of following just what the killer does, and you're trying to figure out why, and other characters kind of bouncing off what the main character is doing. Whereas in, like, a movie like Psycho, Norman Bates is not necessarily the main character. I mean, he's in it a lot once you get about 30-45 minutes into the movie, but it's really Marion Crane and her disappearance and everyone trying to figure out what happened with her and what puts them in the vicinity of Norman Bates and his mother. But in this one, no, you are right there with the killer your entire time. I've even read that, like, this was, like, one of the earlier movies that's trying to be a commentary on, like, the viewers themselves, kind of like what was it, Funny Games did a similar thing where, oh, it's a commentary on, like, people getting enjoyment about seeing, like, the violence on screen. I think this one less so than, like, I think Funny Games was a lot more direct with, like, that messaging, where this one you could maybe say it's there in the subtext, but voyeurism itself is definitely there. I feel like it's a little, like, slower. I don't feel like as much is happening to it's because we're comparing to Psycho, it just feels like they're so different in how they present the themes that they're going for. I also feel like there's a chance that like a lot of the criticism that this movie got is is dated because like it seems like in the years after, especially now looking at it through 2025 lens or even just modern era lens, um I don't know if a lot of that criticism would hold up in the modern era. Now, like for people that think it's just a bad movie because they just don't like it, that's different. You're gonna not like movies regardless. But I think a lot of the criticism was almost because they thought it was almost ahead of its time for what it was trying to say, the messaging, the way it was presenting it with, like I said, the voyeurism aspect to it. It seemed like a lot of critics found that to be like distasteful, which is weird. You know, it's interesting because like Psycho was pretty much the opposite with like critic reaction for what I remember, or for what I've read. I haven't necessarily done a deep dive on Psycho as far as reviews go. And then you look at IMDb and Peeping Tom still right now sits at a 7.6. So I'd be interested in maybe Venom, you know, through your research, maybe there's been like a critical renaissance on Peeping Tom. Because like if you I would say if you look at it now, I don't like I said, I think a lot of that criticism you might not find in the modern era. So I'm interested to see like what and why this was like reacted to in the way it was at the time. Because I think that's more important. Because a lot of times movies get buried, you know, even like so like you take a modern critic like Ebert, Siskel and Ebert. You know, I grew up as a kid watching Siskel and Ebert a lot. Once in a while, they would do shows where they look back on their own reviews to see if they still feel that way. And many times they would look back on their stuff and be like, "Man, I was way unfair," or "I don't know what I was thinking." Like I rewatch it now, and I'm like, a lot of that criticism I had might have just been time and place because I don't feel about it different. So I'm kind of interested in that contrast. Overall, though, I did like the movie. I found our lead actor in that role very stoic, very deliberate, um, almost chilling in the fact of like how kind of like normal human he could be.
He's giving me young Peter Lorre vibes.
Yeah, Peter Lorre. I mean, he could almost like a Patrick Bateman type, where like he could fake.
Yeah, Peter Lorre and Dexter.
Yeah, like he could fake being like a regular person just enough to lure people in. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, Psycho. There's not, like you said, there's nothing more I can say. Absolute masterpiece. But I look at a movie like Peeping Tom as like, if you look at it as its counterpart, I still think Peeping Tom is a solid movie and it has its place in history and for what it was. And you said like early, like prototype for possible found footage. I even think like some giallo aspects to it. Because if we're thinking 1960, that's probably even I mean, maybe Bava was probably doing stuff, but other than Bava, like it was probably predates a lot of like giallo, and it could be like early footprints for what would follow with giallo. So I'll leave it at that for right now.
Yeah. Nice. All right, Derek, come on in here, buddy. Tell me what you think of Peeping Tom.
So yeah, this was a first time watch for me too. So this
Nice.
yeah, and it was a journey because every time I try to watch this movie this is kind of one of the reasons I'll be honest, this is one of the reasons we postponed this show. Every time I tried to watch this movie, some shit was fucking happening. And I didn't get a chance to watch it until just recently. So, yeah. So I watched like that honestly, on my last time I attempted to watch this movie, I skipped like a lot of the beginning shit because I've seen it way too much of that girl watching the fucking salamander on the bed scene. I'm like, I can't watch this again at this point. You know, it's like I hate that piano cue. Here comes that piano cue. Do 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 do. I was laughing at that, but yeah, I get what Mike's saying with like the shot and like the found footage aspect, but I was getting also like Maniac vibes from this movie, especially with like the relationship that he kind of involves with the situation with the girl Helen. In that aspect where there's this one girl that he won't hurt, but he's killing all these other women in the process. And you could see that with Maniac. It also reminds me of like Pete Walker era. I bet Pete Walker was a fan of this movie. There's a lot because he came a little bit later in the 70s with like his like exploitation movies where they kind of very similar, and it kind of speaks with the main thing where there is some similarities with Psycho because you got like these two characters that were both like fucking mentally abused by a parent figure. You could tell that right away, especially with our character Mark. It's with his father, where Norman it was his mother, where it has different effects on him because of the ways they were brought up and the situations and how that led. And that's kind of a cool like similarity that I got, where it's like a early child abuse situations going on with their mental status, which is kind of a cool concept. But they're very drastically different. Like one's like this bright Technicolor fucking movie where there's even like a dance number in the middle of it. Like, what the fuck? It just turned into a musical? What the fuck is going on? But we'll talk about that for another day. But man, we can talk about it now. That whole scene was like, just kill this bitch already. Like he's dancing all over this fucking set. I'm like, just kill her. God damn it. But anyways, the cool aspect that I really liked was Helen's mother. That was a cool aspect of this movie, where it's kind of like we probably get into more on like the situations and the contrast. There was a cool aspect of that I really enjoyed, and it is kind of slow moving, but it's very like different type of like. This one feels very British, very like fucking sleazy in the sense where you're getting like a character study piece with this movie. So I saw what they were going with. Yeah, it might be a little bit slower for some audience members, but I highly liked it for what it was. You know what I mean? In that aspect, like the colors were vibrant. Fucking weirdest ending ever though. I was like, I get what they were going for, but I was like, and very weird jazzy score. Like there's some like jazz into it, which I dig a lot. But overall, for a first time watch, as long as I watch it at the right time, Peeping Tom's a good watch.
So I'm glad I'm not the only one who's a first time watcher of this movie. I felt weird considering, the history and legacy of this film. But I felt kind of the same way that Derek and Mike did. A little bit of a slower film, but I mean, the first thing you see is that color, just that beautiful, vibrant color from 1960s UK. It's got that Mod Squad quality to it that I absolutely love. The movie is obviously very British, even though there are a couple of Americans in the film. For the most part, it is a British cast, shot in England. I believe it was shot in Essex and parts of London. Mark Lewis is definitely a very interesting character, and I think part of the controversy with this movie is the fact that our director, Michael Powell, kind of made Mark a little bit of a sympathetic character. But the funny thing is that that's accurate, because a lot of serial killers, and I'm not forgiving any serial killer that's ever existed in human history, not by any stretch, but when you're abused the way that Mark was abused, I mean, what else would he be but a serial killer? Now, obviously, this is an older film, so maybe back then they didn't realize that abusing kids mentally like that would turn them into a killer. But now, obviously, like Mike was saying, with the 2025 lens that we're all looking at the world through now, we realize that if you abuse a kid too much, they're going to become antisocial. They're going to become aggressive and potentially, turn into a killer. We've seen it countless times. I was just watching a video recently about a 14-year-old that killed her friend, and she's being tried as an adult, and the parents are all pissed off, and it's like, do you not understand that your daughter took someone else's life? A person who doesn't get to live their life, a set of parents who are heartbroken, but you're surprised that they're going to try her as an adult? I mean, come on now. So the whole thing with this movie holding a mirror up to society is 100% true. It just, and in this film, it's literal. He's literally holding up a mirror up to his victims, but we'll talk about that in the walkthrough a little bit. So yeah, I mean, the performances are what gets me first, is what's most, the color and the performances are what's most striking about the movie. I think Carl Baum as Mark does a great job. I mean, he literally he's Dexter. He's basically 1960 Dexter. He's a serial killer who can't control his urges, but can still have normal, he has a job, he has relationships, so I mean, this is literally a precursor for Dexter, and I like that because I love Dexter. Dexter is like one of my favorite, the original series anyway, one of my favorite TV shows ever. So, seeing that, and I think obviously audiences weren't ready for that. They weren't ready to see a serial killer as a sympathetic character. And, when we start talking later on about my list of potential reasons why this destroyed Michael Powell's career, that's definitely going to be one of them. But, as far as the movie itself goes, a fairly tame movie. It's already been said there's no real on-screen deaths. Whereas with Psycho, there's only 2 deaths in the whole movie, and they are both on screen, and they are both bloody. Obviously, the shower scene could have been bloodier if it was shot a different way, but obviously Hitchcock shot it in a way that it's not too ultra subversive, too gory. It's still a shock, especially because it's the star of the film and you're taking her out at the 45-minute mark of the movie, but it's still, how can I put it? And the point that Mike was making too about Marion Crane and Psycho being Marion Crane's movie, I 100% agree with. Norman Bates is not the protagonist of Psycho by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, he comes like a half hour in the movie, you
Exactly.
follow Marion Crane,
Big time, exactly. So, with this one, like I said, the director kind of giving this guy a real world backstory that a lot of serial killers have. I think audiences just weren't ready for that yet. They weren't ready to see the truth. I mean, how many, people laughed at Galileo. People laughed at Isaac Newton when he talked about gravity. I mean, people that are ahead of their time always get laughed at by the general masses. And I feel like this is just another example of that. People looked at this movie as absolute trash. Like, I read some of the reviews for this movie. They're not just scathing, they're hateful. Like, some of the reviews for this movie are straight hateful. One person literally, yeah, I mean, somebody literally called this movie a piece of shit and that it deserves to be scooped up and flushed down the toilet. That was a review from an actual newspaper in the UK. So, yeah, it just, like I said, audiences just were not ready for that level of realism in their horror films. And it's really too bad, because if this movie would have been made 20 years later, say 1980, it may have been, considered the cult classic right from the start that it is now. And another thing that really struck me is just how tame the movie is. Like, for a movie that supposedly destroyed someone's career, I was expecting this thing to be just bloody and gory and uncomfortable. And I'm the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, if Herschel Gordon Lewis would have made this movie, we would be talking about a whole different story.
Yeah, it'd be like Wizard of Gore.
It would have been so ultra gory, and maybe the fact that it would have been so ultra gory would make audiences maybe not take it as seriously. Sometimes when the gore is ramped up in horror movies, you take the deaths less seriously. Stuff like Terrifier, movies like that. Whereas with, Peeping Tom, or the version of Peeping Tom that we got, everything is taken very seriously. Everything is very slow. So you're spending a lot of time looking at these women, the fear on their face, just all of it. Like I said, just really well-made film.
Come here, Helen.
And then Helen, of course. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Helen. Helen just turned 21. She lives in the same building as Mark. As it turned, one thing that I found kind of funny is the fact that he's the fucking landlord, and no one knew he was the landlord. Everybody thought he was just this weird, quiet guy, loner, creeper type guy, and he fucking, runs the building. It's kind of funny. So yeah, I found that interesting. Helen as a character I thought was really cool because obviously Helen sees something in Mark that most people don't, because Mark is obviously very quiet, very standoffish. He doesn't get excitable, unless he's doing the thing that he loves doing. Even when he's working, like he's actually he works on a film set. And what's funny is that there's a scene where, he kills the girl after the dance scene. What's funny is that he takes more preparation in shooting his videos than he does the actual movies that he's working on. Like, we see him preparing some shots and taking some light readings and things like that. But then when it's the actual kill scene, he's putting like X's on the floor, like marking the spot that he wants his actress to stand on. It's like, okay, I'm going to kill you right here, so stand on this X. Like he takes his art so seriously, more seriously than the actual movies that he's making. So, I found that kind of interesting. And then, like I said, the backstory with his dad mentally abusing him totally makes sense. It makes Mark a sympathetic character, which, as I've already said, people probably just weren't ready for. I definitely have some questions about the ending myself. It seemed like Mark was kind of on a path to get to this end the whole movie. There are certain decisions that he makes, like when he kills the girl at the photo studio. He knows the cops are outside. He looks out the window and sees the cops are following him, and he still decides to kill the girl. He didn't have to. It's not like he hated her or had any major reason to kill her other than his sinister urge, of course. But, the fact that, he's playing into the cops' investigations, and then finally when we get the final scene, which might also be another reason that people probably hated this movie, is that the killer isn't actually taken out by a heroic character, that he takes himself out. So he goes out on his own terms. And I think a lot of people weren't ready for that. A serial killer going out on their own terms, not being dictated by the state or the court of public opinions, how their story should end. So, yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, I've got a list of about a dozen things here that we're going to talk about once we're done with the actual feature review of the film. But yeah, like I said, beautifully shot, beautifully acted, a great score. The third act, I don't want to say it falls apart. It doesn't fall apart. It's just there are elements to the third act that kind of leave you scratching your head. Chaotic, yes, but like confusing, I think might be a good term too. Just wondering, the decisions that Mark is making, especially on that last day, the last day that he's, doing what he's doing. A lot of the decisions that he makes that day felt like he wanted to get caught, and considering what we see during that final scene, it almost corroborates that story. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting that way. But again, we're looking at the mind of a killer, something that people were not ready for in 1960. I think Michael Powell did a spectacular job of portraying Mark Lewis's psychosis and, the things that drive him to do the things that he does. I don't want to say it's like a 10 out of 10 film, because it's not. I mean, it's not a masterpiece necessarily. It's a great film. It's a moment in history. Obviously, it's ahead of its time. If the movie would have been made years later, I think it would have been more widely accepted and even praised the way that it's praised now. Because, like I said, the reviews that this thing got when it came out, I mean, this thing played in theaters for 5 days. Let me repeat that. This played in theaters for 5 days before it was pulled. And it was pulled not because of lack of ticket sales, but because of the critical response. Because of every single critic calling this a piece of shit, just subversive garbage. Theater owners, without watching the film themselves, were pulling the movie from their theaters, thinking that it was going to, end up getting banned or something. But yeah, just, man, I just, it's so unfair, the treatment that both Michael Powell and this movie got after its release. It's absolutely unfair. And I mean, you could make the argument that it's more the country, because even though Hitchcock is British, he was a Hollywood director. He made his movies for Hollywood. So basically they're American movies. Whereas this
'cause
one,
Psycho was produced by Universal, so that gives
exactly.
a more wider range. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I mean, you've got, more screens are going to show it. And then the fact that, and to answer Mike's question about if this movie was critically acclaimed when it came out, it actually was not. This movie was not universally praised when it came out. It had a lot of the same reviews that Peeping Tom got, but because Hitchcock was Hitchcock, because don't forget, by 1960, Hitchcock's already been making movies for 20 years.
Yeah.
Good ones, great movies. Rear Window was like a couple of years before this.
Rebecca,
so, I mean, the man.
Like, yeah.
Vertigo was before Psycho. So it's like all these, like, if roles were reversed and Michael Powell made Psycho and Hitchcock made Peeping Tom, maybe Psycho would be the movie that destroyed someone's career just because of the country that it was released in. Because maybe UK audiences weren't ready for a movie about a psycho killer the way American audiences were.
Hey, it's the same country that made the Video Nasties, and half those movies on the list are not even fucking bad.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, that's probably the thing that I walk away from this movie with the most in my head is not understanding why this killed this guy's career, because it's objectively a well-made movie. Even if you don't like the story, it's a well-made film. It's shot beautifully. It's scored beautifully, directed, edited. I mean, it's a well-made film. Even if you don't like the story, you still need to recognize its technical prowess. And critics did not do that when it came out. Whereas with Psycho, they did. With Psycho, some critics panned the story, saying that it was a little subversive, maybe a little bit more than we needed. But American critics, were able to recognize Hitchcock's prowess in making that film, whereas it seemed like UK critics didn't recognize Michael Powell's skills, and that's unfortunate. That could be just another reason why Powell and Powell's career. For those who think that Peeping Tom literally destroyed his career, he did still make films after this. It's just none of them ever played in theaters. He didn't really have the notoriety that he had before this, because he was, don't forget, Michael Powell was nominated for an Oscar before Peeping Tom.
He co-directed the Red Shoes. He was the co-director.
Yeah, Red Shoes. And then I think a war movie that he did, he was nominated for Best Director for that. So, I mean, the guy has critical acclaim. Like I said, it's one of a plethora of different reasons as to why this thing, destroyed his career in the long run, because ultimately he did continue working up until 1978, I believe. He kept making movies till 1978. Unfortunately, he died in 1990, but at least he did live long enough to see his movie become the cult classic that it should have been from the beginning. So, I'm glad about that, because if he would have died like in the early 70s, thinking that his movie was just going to be panned forever and forgotten, I definitely a much more sad outcome. But the fact that he lived till 1990, he got to see the movie not only play at film festivals in America, but actually get praised by people like Siskel and Ebert and, Rex Reed and things like that in the 70s. So, yeah, an unfortunate situation, which we'll obviously get into here in a little bit. But before I go ahead and get into what will be a very short walkthrough, because the story, it's not ultra complicated. It's a fairly simple story. But I'll turn it over to my co-host. Anything else you guys want to add before we get into the story of Peeping Tom?
I was just going to mention, I think you already said it, Venom. It seemed like the main character was almost on this journey towards the conclusion. Like, it was almost kind of like, because once you start learning more about his past and what kind of like shaped and molded him to be what he was, it was almost like he was a willing participant in the downfall that was inevitable. And the end almost feels like, I don't want to say freedom in a sense, but like he kind of knew it was like a one-way road, what he was doing. Yeah. And it was almost like, yep, like I know there's no other conclusion. It might be shorter or longer when once it actually happens, but this is where it's headed.
Yeah, it almost felt like John Doe from Seven, Kevin Spacey's character in Seven. Like he had a very specific plan and he had a very specific end game for everything that he was doing. He wasn't just a basic psycho that was just going to keep killing and killing until he got caught or killed. He had an actual end game. So I think maybe same thing here. I think Mark actually had an end game. It may not have jived with, what everybody else thought should happen to him, but, he went out on his own terms, like I said, which maybe some people weren't ready for. All right, folks, let's get into our story. This is, of course, Peeping Tom, 1960. Our movie opens with a first-person view. We get to see someone approaching a woman, very obviously a prostitute on the street.
That'll be £2.
Yeah, and she doesn't even ask what he wants. She literally just says, "Oh, it'll be £2." He must nod or something, because then she leads him to her apartment, which is right around the corner from where she's kind of standing at the corner. They go into the apartment, and this is all one long shot too, which is I thought was really well done. Again, we see the woman enter her room. She starts to take off her clothes, obviously thinking that the cameraman is, a Tom for the night, or is that what they call him? A Tom or a John? A John, maybe. A customer, a prostitute's customer. But unfortunately, after a while, you start to see her face change. Suddenly, we see like a light reflecting off of her face. We don't know what that light reflecting is until the very end of the movie, which I did like the reveal of that, but we'll get to it. And then, the shot fades to black before there's any actual stabbing done. It scream, fade to black. That's how pretty much most of the kills in this movie are. They're off screen. There's very little blood in this movie. For a movie that's so vibrant with its colors, there's very little blood in here. We got a tiny little bit of blood when they find the girl's body in the trunk on the movie set. And then, of course, the very end scene, we get a little bit of blood on the floor too, but that's it. For a movie that has a body count that's twice as big as Psycho, there's almost no blood in this movie. So, like I said, that was just one of the things that struck me as I was watching it. After the opening scene, we then meet Mark Lewis. He is our protagonist for the film. And we find out that he works on a movie set. He's a cameraman. Maybe not a camera operator, but he does like lighting and stuff like that. He's working on like a B movie with, an actress that's being kind of difficult. And then he ends up striking up a friendship with the stand-in actress, the actress that's, the stand-in for the star. And, the movie just kind of goes on from there. We then follow Mark home, where we find out that he, lives next to this cute little redhead named Helen. She is celebrating her 21st birthday. She actually catches Mark as he's walking through the front door of the apartment building, invites him to the party. But of course, Mark is very standoffish, very, wants to be alone, doesn't really interact with many people outside of his job. So eventually Helen, which I found kind of interesting that a 21-year-old British girl in 1960 was that outgoing. But yeah, she literally goes up to Mark's apartment, knocks on his door, gives him a piece of cake, and then practically invites herself in. They end up striking up a little bit of a romance. Unfortunately, it's not really ever explored fully, but the embers of a romance start to kind of develop there. She's obviously fascinated with him being a filmmaker. He has a dark room in his apartment where he can develop his film, his pictures, everything else. He watches his movies every day. Every night he watches one of his kill videos where we see him approach a woman. But, as usual, the film cuts off right before the actual killing. Let's see. Mark also has a part-time job at a photo studio that kind of doubles as an adult bookstore. It's kind of a weird store because it's like For 1960 UK, this was like an adult bookstore, but they weren't hiding anything. Like everything was out in the open. Like they didn't care necessarily. I thought that was kind of
the guy that came in at the beginning, that was fucking awesome.
Just looking for pictures. Literally bought a book of pictures of different models that they have, and it turns out that they actually have a photo studio above the store where Mark takes boudoir photos, which of course are kind of sexy lingerie type pictures, things like that. Very risque for 1960. Obviously today it would be the tamest form of pornography, but back then pretty risque. Let's see. So basically the story just goes, Helen just kind of interjects herself into Mark's life more and more. She ends up sneaking into his apartment one day, not really sneaking, but just going in there to wait for him, and ends up watching one of his kill videos. I actually love this scene, the way it was shot, because the camera stays on Helen's face. So we're only seeing Helen's reaction to the film that she's watching. We can hear the audio. We can hear that a woman is being victimized. She's screaming, and then the screaming stops. So we know what we're watching, but just keeping the camera static on Helen's face, I thought was a great choice, because what you think of in your head is going to be way worse than probably what was actually playing on the screen. So I actually like that. Let us fill in the blanks for what the movie actually looks like. Like I said, eventually Helen just gets closer and closer with Mark. More and more people are disappearing. Eventually Mark does end up killing the stand-in actress. And that's the dance sequence that Derek was talking about. But unlike Derek, I actually like this scene. Something about the dichotomy of her being happy that she's about to be a star in a movie for the first time. Contrast that with Mark basically planning on murdering her in camera. I like the scene because of that. One of them is celebrating, the other one is planning. And it worked for me. Plus, the girl in the scene isn't hard to look at either. So of course that helps.
Oh yeah, she was shaking her bum. That was
oh yeah, she was having a good time. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah.
And then of course, once again, Mark does his usual routine. We eventually find out that his weapon of choice is actually one of the legs on his camera tripod. It actually has like a false tip. He pulls the false tip off of it, and it's a blade. There's actually a blade under there, and it's the leg of the tripod that's right in front of the lens. So literally, as he approaches his victim with the camera, we can see the blade kind of in front, kind of leading the way to the person, obviously to the victim. Of course, it always cuts out right before the moment of impact. So the next day, they end up finding this actress in a trunk, and this is the first sign that I think Mark wants to get caught, because up until now he was killing these people in isolated areas where he could just leave the body and there would be no connection to him. But with this kill, he leaves her in a trunk on set. And he knows that trunk is going to get opened because the next day they're shooting a scene where the actress is picking out trunks in a store. So he knows that they're going to find that body the next morning, which is, kind of interesting. Like I said, it kind of shows that Mark is on a very specific path that he's laid for himself. And he already knows what his end game is. And he might even know the day that it's going to happen. Who knows? So after the actress is killed, suddenly the police start taking more interest in people on the set, realizing that it potentially could be someone, the serial killer that's loose in London could potentially be someone working on this film set. Eventually, Mark ends up speaking to a psychiatrist on set. They end up inviting a psychiatrist on set because the star is, having anxiety because she's the one who actually found the actress's body in the trunk. So now she's having anxiety. So now they have a psychiatrist on set. Mark actually asks the psychiatrist, what do you know about voyeurism or peeping Tom syndrome? a police officer overhears that and realizes that, oh, that might be our killer. Now, why does Mark ask the psychiatrist about this stuff? We find out through flashbacks that Mark's father was a scientist and he was studying the effects of fear. And who was his subject? This piece of shit was using his own son as his subject in his experiments. And he was basically purposely scaring Mark and then filming it because he was interested in the effects of fear on humans. Now, if you spend an entire childhood freaking this poor kid out, why do you think that he's going to grow up to be a normal, well-adjusted guy? It does, even in the context of 1960, that doesn't make sense to me. Just abusing a kid mentally. And thankfully, there was no physical abuse. There was no physical or sexual abuse. It was all mental and emotional. There's the one scene that Derek talked about where like a gecko or like a lizard is thrown on Mark's bed. And we see him react very viscerally. Like he's terrified, he's crying. Helen is actually watching this film and Helen is disgusted, which is the correct response. You should not be watching this and think, this is a great experiment. What?
The most fucked up part of that whole video too is like, oh yeah, and then my mother died. And this is the successor. Yeah. The successor.
Oh, right. He called his stepmother the successor. I forgot about that. That was interesting. That just kind of shows you how disconnected he is from like normal relationships. He couldn't call her a stepmother. He called her the successor. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah. So like I said, once the police investigation ramps up, suddenly they start, and then once they realize that Mark started asking questions to this psychiatrist about peeping Tom syndrome or voyeurism, they start following him. And Mark is actually a pretty savvy serial killer, to give him, a little bit of credit. He knows instantly that the cops are following him to the point where he keeps turning around and looking at the plainclothes cop. He's not in a police uniform. He's a police detective in plain clothes, but Mark instantly knows, oh yeah, that guy's following me. And then Mark is actually on the way to the photo studio or, the adult bookstore where he works to do a photo session with a girl that we've seen once already in the movie, a beautiful blonde girl that does those kind of risque pictures. Well, when he starts taking the pictures, he actually looks out the window, sees the police officer standing at the corner looking up at him. So he realizes he's being followed. What does he do? He ends up killing the blonde girl anyway, despite knowing the fact that the cops are following him, and the cops are literally right outside the bookstore that he's in. He still ends up killing this girl. He walks out of the store nonchalantly, like nothing happened. He locks the door behind him because the store owner is already gone for the day. So he locks the door behind him, and the cop who's following him continues to follow him. The police officer doesn't think to look in the studio. He he's following his orders. He's following Mark around to, see what's going on. Eventually, the store owner comes back, opens up the store, goes upstairs to the photo studio, and finds the girl dead, which, anybody is going to know who the killer is at this point. The store owner, the cops, at this point, everybody knows who the killer is. And we're now kind of barreling towards our finale, which is back at Mark's apartment. Helen is there. Helen is trying to convince him to get help. Like at this point, and that's another thing that I found odd about Mark. When Helen found one of his kill movies, Mark didn't even try to deny it. Like at first, Helen was like, that's fake, right? That's just a movie. But Mark is like, no, I actually killed her. She's dead. Like very nonchalantly, he admitted to everything, which again kind of goes to the theory that he has an end game and he has a very specific path set in front of him. Eventually, he starts to act like he's going to kill Helen, but he says, I don't want to ever see you scared. Like that's his fetish, is that he likes to see the fear on women's faces the way that his father liked looking at the fear on his face when he was a kid.
Yeah, he's like that yellow bastard from Sin City.
Yes, thank you. The yellow bastard. Absolutely. Definitely. So, yeah. So he basically tells Helen, no, I never want to see you scared like that. So basically tells her to leave, lets her go. But then he starts turning on cameras and lights in his studio. And this is where we finally get our ending where Mark. Oh, and this is also when we find out that the reflection on all the victims' faces is a mirror. He's basically
Giant mirror.
Yeah, it's a giant mirror that he basically attaches to the tripod that has the blade on the end of it, the tripod leg that has a blade on it, so that the people that are getting murdered are looking at themselves getting murdered, which is kind of fucked up when you think about it.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a
But
mic
it
filter
also
over
makes
a mirror.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, when you know about Mark's background and everything that his father did to him, it makes perfect sense that he wants to show. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people say that this movie holds a mirror up to society's face as far as people who like to watch horror movies, who like to watch people get killed, that this movie holds a mirror up to those people's faces. But literally, Mark holds a mirror up to his victims' faces so that they can see what they look like at the moment of death, which is pretty fucked up when you think about it. So, that could be another factor as to why this movie was so critically panned and, basically tried to be buried. But and
that's what I thought it might be. It might be the nature of how he's doing it and turning the mirror and maybe like pointing the finger at audiences and their own voyeurism. Like maybe critics weren't ready for like the mirror being turned on the viewing audience. Like that, that's what I was like maybe thinking, just because doing that in 1960s is like different than doing that like now,
Absolutely.
Because this era, I mean, we see like a lot of changes coming in film because you have like Hitchcock kind of clicking over to his 60s stuff. You have Peeping Tom. You have Polanski about to drop existentialism on screen in like a mainstream way, which some people don't jive with. So like there's a lot of like,
and this is still like the early days where like fucking probably the most extreme fucking horror movies were like the Hammer horror movies from like the 50s that came out at that time period. And this is like the beginning of like when England was starting to do like its censor and shit. It's like around this time period.
It feels like a very transitional period in film. Like this is, you could even say like Psycho and Peeping Tom were on the cusp of it, like before it really the floodgates open, but it could be a case of like many new subcultures when they first start out, and like the order as being like the old guard, I guess. They aren't ready for these changes and they try to push it off and say, not under our watch, but progress like this doesn't stop,
Yeah, and like this movie, it's like 10 years too early for like its audience. Like Absolutely. If this was made like like a lot of the 70s movies, I feel like are made from directors that were fans of this movie, like say like a Pete Walker or Norman J. Warren, where most of their movies attack society in that time period. Like you had Pete Walker, who made a movie in 76 called House of Mortal Sin, which is literally about a fucking priest murdering people.
Yeah. I've always kind of felt like the reason the 70s, the style and the grit is so like in your face with a lot of movies is because they're really either from directors that were already making movies in the 50s and 60s or just that new generation that saw and were huge fans of the 50s and 60s, but they also saw the limitations of what you can do on screen. And then when the 70s came, it was just like, okay, we're being allowed a little more freedom to like take that next step. It's not like it's different from the excess that we get in the 80s where just special effects and it's like a different, I would say it's a different context of excess in the 80s. In the 70s it's almost just like a reaction to like what films in the 50s and 60s maybe were trying to do, and sometimes it was still successful. It's not that anything before the 70s couldn't do it, but like I just think like the 70s almost took that next step, and just a lot of like stuff like, you know, movies like French Connection, Sorcerer that I talked about, Exorcist, like just I know, you know, we could list movies off forever, but I think like the 60s was kind of the cusp, but they were running into like the barriers of like the old guard and being not ready for it. And maybe if Peeping Tom would have come out like a decade later, it would have been like championed instead of like rejected.
Yeah, absolutely. Huh. All right. So just to get back to the ending, I'm not sure if I actually finished, but basically Mark, like I said, he puts the mirror up to his own face, stabs himself in the throat, basically runs into his tripod, you know, the leg with the knife sticking out, and, you know, has a very dramatic death before falling dead. And that's the end of our movie. No major like epitaph or, you know, any kind of thoughts or anything at the end. Just a crazy guy.
The cool thing I noticed
out.
the cool thing I did notice was fucking at the very end on the voice recordings, it actually has his father saying "good boy,"
yeah,
as he dies.
That's true. Yeah, maybe that was Dad's plan all along. Maybe he was trying to make a serial killer. Who knows? Obviously, Dad is gone, so we can't ask him. We can only rely on the notes that he left.
Yo, it was so crazy.
Yeah.
They made the whole house like a record. Like,
yep,
that blew my mind.
All right, folks. Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, folks. Well, that's the end of our walkthrough. So I guess now let's go ahead and talk about just the legacy of this film. Now, as we've already discussed, the movie was released in early 1960, only played in theaters for 5 days because of the critical response, not because of the audience response necessarily, because from what I could find, it was doing okay in the theater. Like, yes, people were hating it, but people were going out and seeing it because when a controversial movie comes out, obviously people want to know why it's controversial for themselves. So they'll go and check it out. So it's definitely not necessarily because the movie was underperforming. The movie was never given a chance to perform. Like I said, some theaters never carried it because obviously critics review the movies before they're released. Some theater chains in the UK just never aired the movie, never broadcast the movie because of the critical response, people talking about it, how subversive it was, how terrible it is, that it has no artistic value, things like that. But then additionally, any theaters that did end up showing it ended up pulling it 5 days later because of the poor response. So obviously the movie never had a chance because critics, I don't know. I don't remember American critics ever being able to basically get a movie out of theaters. Like if a movie is pulled a few days after release, it's usually because it's crap. Cats is kind of a more recent example where they put it in theaters for 3 days. It got panned, so they pulled it, redid some of the CGI, and then re-released a different version of it. But the movie was still critically panned, so it didn't matter.
I just remember that existed. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't believe I brought that up on this show, but it was the first example that came to my head of audiences actually having
the furries movie
when it comes to. Yeah, exactly. All right, folks. So, like I said, did not play in theaters for very long. Absolutely panned by critics, not just panned, but shit on. Like literally, there were no critics that praised it in any way, shape, or form. It literally took about 15 years before anybody would appreciate this movie. But who do we have to thank for this movie actually being a cult classic? Martin fucking Scorsese. Yes. Back in the mid-70s.
This is cinema.
Back in the mid-70s, Martin Scorsese saw Peeping Tom. And mind you, Peeping Tom didn't come to the States right away because of, the response in the UK and getting pulled in theaters. It never got a theatrical release in the States. So basically, nobody in the States saw it for at least 10 years after its release. So the story is Martin Scorsese saw the movie one day and absolutely loved it, praised it for everything that Michael Powell's trying to do, praised it for the backstory of Mark Lewis and how he was a sympathetic character, even though he was doing terrible things. He just absolutely praised it, but he was so upset that no one in the States had seen it because it never got a release in the States on, well, I mean, there was no physical media in the 60s or 70s, but it didn't get a theatrical release. It didn't air on television. So basically in the States, no one even knew of the existence of Peeping Tom. Martin Scorsese was so moved by this film, he actually put up some of his own money to have this thing get a re-release in the States. And from what I found in my research, he put up almost 25% of the total money that it took to re-release this movie. Basically, what Scorsese did is he took the movie and he submitted it to the New York Film Festival in 1979, 19 years after the release of this movie. He submitted it to the New York Film Festival. It got accepted, and then it ended up winning a jury prize. It actually won an award at the 1979 Film Festival. I don't know what award it won. All I could find was that it won a jury prize, so whatever the hell that means. And then after that, suddenly people started recognizing it for what it is, for its just brilliant portrayal of a sympathetic character who, had a bad childhood. And because of that bad childhood, it turned him into a bad adult. And, people somehow, American audiences in 79 absolutely loved it. It ended up getting a physical release a few years later on VHS, started playing on television, on AMC and channels like that. So we can all thank Martin Scorsese for this one. So let's go ahead and get into my list.
A year later, Maniac was released.
I know, a movie that's way more intense than Peeping Tom, but, whatever. What are you going to do? All right. Yeah. So like I said, I've got a list here of about 8 to 10 different reasons, potentially, why this movie destroyed Michael Powell's career. And I just kind of wanted to get feedback from my co-hosts and, do you agree? Do you not agree? Things like that. So first and foremost, the first thing I've got written down here is protagonist versus antagonist. Now, before I get into this, let me give you the definition of both of those words, because people have kind of twisted the definition of those words around. Nowadays, when people say protagonist, they think the hero or the good guy. And when you say antagonist, they think, oh, he is the villain or the bad guy. That is not technically true. In most cases, that is correct. But the literal definition of protagonist is the main character of a story. That's it. That is the definition of protagonist. So, what do you call it? Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, despite him being an American Psycho, he is still the protagonist of the film. He's not the quote unquote good guy or the hero, but he is the protagonist. And now the literal definition of antagonist is a person who is the primary source of conflict for the protagonist. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they are the villain. They are just against the protagonist. They are the source of conflict. So in Peeping Tom, I guess you could cut. Well, yeah, he was more of a victim than an antagonist. But anyway, point is, a lot of people say that because Peeping Tom made Mark Lewis, the serial killer, the protagonist of the film, that audiences weren't able to identify with them. Audiences are not able, especially in 1960, UK audiences are not able to identify with him as the killer, and they even feel uncomfortable, and which is the point of Peeping Tom. I mean, that was Michael Powell's whole point. This movie was not meant to be a good time. It's meant to make you uncomfortable. It's meant to make you think. I mean, the true antagonist of this movie ultimately is Mark Lewis's father, because he's the one who did all that shit to Mark when he was a kid and turned him into the fucking psycho that he is now. So So, and then with Psycho, of course, it's the complete opposite. Marion Crane is the protagonist. Norman Bates is the antagonist. He is the source of conflict to Marion Crane's main story. So I wanted to just ask both of you on this point specifically, how much merit do you think this point has? Do you think that Mark Lewis being the protagonist doomed this movie, or maybe audiences just weren't ready? Mike, jump in here for me. Or Derek, if you're ready, you can come in.
Oh, go ahead, Derek.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I totally agree, because most of the time, like, it even goes to, like, the video nasties era, where you have movies like Cannibal Man, where they probably put it on for the title, but it's also a character study where you're following this guy who ends up killing a few people on the way, where it's like kind of the same thing as Peeping Tom, a psychological horror movie where you're following the POV of the actual killer. It's like even like later movies like Repulsion and shit like that did this, where you're following the mentally disturbed person in that piece. You know what I mean? Where it's kind of risque. It feels a little bit realer in that sense. Where I kind of compare it to like when you're watching like a movie where like a very bad breakup happens, like Blue's the Woman's Color, where it feels like you shouldn't be watching this happen right now, and that's how it felt like in some scenes, like, you know, you shouldn't be watching this guy showing this girl these videos of him getting attacked by a salamander. Like, it's kind of uncomfortable in that sense, especially with like that gray like jazz piano that's playing throughout those scenes. Kind of feels like more like a documentary, because usually a lot of documentaries use kind of that same kind of music style in that sense. Where, yeah, it does. I can see why, especially that time period with like the British censors and like knowing like anything about British history of film, they wouldn't go for all, you know. Take years later when you see like Dr. Frankenstein raping women in fucking Hammer movies, like, so, you know.
Mike, what do you got on this topic? Michael,
can you restate? You're asking if it was too ahead of its time for audiences now?
No. We're talking about protagonists versus antagonists. So, do we think that Mark being made a protagonist doomed this movie?
I definitely could see that, because I see that in movies now. Even sometimes, maybe they didn't know how to handle the fact that they're kind of following the POV of him, which kind of makes him a protagonist, even though he's doing all the things. Because like, if you compare that like years in the future with like slasher films, where like if you get a good franchise with like a slasher icon, or as in the times that they were just becoming an icon, you can definitely say audiences were pretty fine rooting for crazy kills and over the top murders to be happening. But back in 1960, yeah, I could see that it kind of could befuddle them, because I'm trying to think of like other movies at the time. Like, man, I'm trying to think like what year.
Yeah, pre-1960, we don't really see this kind of filmmaking too much.
Yeah, like I mean, there could be like gangsters and like noir films, but like not I think like the serial killer like this, it would have been rare for him to be the protagonist.
Maybe the earliest, maybe M.
Right.
Yeah.
M, what was that, like 1932 or something? That's an old ass movie. Yeah, great movie, by the way. Basically, it's based, for those who've never seen it, it's based on a true story of a child killer, you know, from England, I believe. So I think, but that movie, since the killer wasn't made to be like, you know, sympathetic, or we're not looking through the lens of the killer, I think people were able to disassociate more. So it's like, they don't look at Peter Lorre and M as a sympathetic character or somebody that they kind of feel bad for, if you will, whereas Mark is. And I think that's maybe like I said, where audiences just weren't prepared for that. They weren't prepared for a serial killer to be the protagonist of a film, and which is really too bad because it's commonplace now. Like Mike said, with countless examples of the
Fucking
killer.
Dexter.
I mean, hey, Dexter's right back to Dexter. So
like popular said, they bring him back.
Now, obviously, with a lot of the questions that we're asking on this show, it's hard to kind of think about how people were back in 1960. None of us were around in 1960. I'm the closest. I was negative 10 years old in 1960. So it's one of those things where, we weren't there. So we, especially in another country too, like we might be able to speak on American audiences, but UK audiences, that's a whole nother animal, something that we know nothing about, outside of Hammer movies, So yeah, I do agree with that point. That's probably going to be the biggest one, in my opinion, as to why this movie just kind of got panned and destroyed Michael Powell's career. But yeah, now we've already talked about the voyeurism. Obviously, the voyeurism is a big part of it. You're actually looking through the lens of a killer's camera as he's killing people. Obviously, ahead of its time for 1960.
Birthplace of the POV of the slasher,
Exactly. But like I said, it's fairly tame, especially by today, even by 80s standards. Hell, by 70s standards, this movie is fairly tame. There's probably movies from the same year, not counting Psycho, that were way more over the top than this, but because they didn't take their subject matter as seriously, maybe audiences didn't think about it too hard, or, they didn't try to kill someone's career. Because that's another thing too, is that's something I don't ever, at least in my life, in my 55 years on this planet, I don't remember American critics actively wanting to destroy a director's career. The critics of Peeping Tom literally said, I hope this guy never works again. Critics were trying to destroy this guy's career. And like I said, that's something that I've never heard of in this country. Yes, there's blacklists and things like that, directors and actors that don't get along, or, the whole communist thing in the 40s and 50s. But for a critic to watch a movie, not like it, and want to literally destroy that director's career, to me, just seems really unheard of and totally shitty. So, I don't know that we really need to expand on that one too much. It's just, the sensibilities of the time in 1960. Now, the next thing I have on this one is the ending. Now, if you guys remember, at the end of Psycho, we get a long dissertation by a psychiatrist explaining everything that's going on with Norman, his mother, his mental state, all of it. Whereas with this movie, we don't get any kind of explanation. Now, obviously, throughout the movie, we get flashback scenes. And as the viewer of the film, we understand why Mark is doing the things that he's doing. But in the movie, the people in the movie don't understand it. So this one is definitely an outlier. I'm not sure how much validity this has, but I found this in my research that one person on Reddit actually thought that because of that explanation at the end of Psycho, which I don't actually like that scene, by the way. I'm the kind of person that I don't like my endings served to me on a silver platter. You don't have to explain every single little thing. Like that's easily my least favorite scene in Psycho. I don't need that explanation. And so back to the question at hand. Do you guys think that final scene helped Psycho? And do you think if they would have done a scene like that in Peeping Tom, where a psychiatrist tries to explain everything, do you think it would have helped? Derek, go ahead. It's a weird question, I know.
The history of knowing the history of mental health at the time, like you said earlier while we were reviewing Peeping Tom, the aspect of a lot of people probably didn't know about child abuse and mental abuse of children and how it could affect their children being serial killers later on in life. if you watch like anything about like Jeffrey Dahmer, like usually like there's a movie called My Friend Dahmer, where it's like his younger years, and it fucking goes right into that subject matter right away, and that's a true story. You know what I mean? And that aspect of it, where if maybe it would like in that aspect where if it was explained to the audience at that time, like it's the same complaint that I have with like a lot of like the 50s like giant monster movies where they have like this narrator telling you like all of a sudden it stops and there's people talking, but then the narrator is talking over them. They're going on the boat now, like it's that stupid. Like I know I can see that where in this day and age where since this is a first time watch for me, this movie, I seen tons of movie that copied this movie, and in that sense where especially like later day movies where mental health's already in the view and shit, and you get that aspect where when you watch this one, oh, okay, I see where they're going with this because I've seen hundreds of movies that fucking copied this one.
Sure. So what do you think, Mike? You think if a psychiatrist would have explained Mark Lewis at the end of Peeping Tom, people might have hated the movie less, or no difference? What do you think?
See, with Mark Lewis and Peeping Tom, I felt that we were getting like the exposition through the flashbacks enough in the movie that like we didn't need it. Whereas Psycho, obviously on repeat watches, you pick up on it so much quicker just because of like what's going on. But like on a first time watch, I don't know. I don't mind the exposition at the end of Psycho only because it's not like when we're spending time with Norman Bates. I'm trying to think. Like he does talk about his mom kind of being a little bit overbearing, I guess, in his conversation with Marion Crane, but it's not. I don't think it's to the same level as like we're not literally getting flashbacks. We're not getting reason to believe that we're headed towards the conclusion we are in Psycho necessarily. And again, this is assuming we're watching it as like a fresh watch. Never seen it before. Don't know the pop culture references.
Don't know about split personality disorder or shit like that.
Because trust me, Norman Bates and his mom were firmly in pop culture before I saw Psycho. So like, I can't even call my first time watch 100% like fresh because like I already knew just because I lived in a world that referenced that stuff all the time.
Weirdly, I saw Psycho 2 before Psycho.
Yeah, I don't know because like I feel like in Peeping Tom we didn't need it. Like the information was already kind of supplied to it. Now maybe they could have further gone into it, but we kind of understood like okay, the abuse molded and shaped this guy. Where with Psycho, are you talking about the cops talking, or when like Norman himself and his mom like when
No, the psychiatrist explaining Norman. At the end of the movie, at the police station. That's a psychiatrist. It's not a cop. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I actually totally agree with you. Because of the way that Peeping Tom was shot, I don't think we needed that heavy-handed explanation at the end. I think anybody with half a working brain can put the pieces together and see that, yes, Michael Powell is making Mark Lewis a sympathetic character, a relatable character. And people maybe just weren't ready for that in 1960. People don't want to feel relatable to a serial killer. Like when they watch Psycho, Norman Bates is just a fucking psycho. That's it. There's nothing redeeming about him. He's just crazy. Whereas with Mark Lewis, we get that backstory that explains why he's the way he is. So yeah, I agree with Mike. Like I said, this is stuff that I found in my research. It may not necessarily be stuff I agree with, but it's stuff that I found. So,
and the other thing is Psycho. We only get the one scene, and it's kind of like the brief flash where Norman is actually in the mother's like getup,
and she's talking like mother.
Yeah, it happens at the very end when the viewers kind of get the flash of like, okay,
Bates.
Yes. So maybe like it made more sense to do it in Psycho because it's like, okay, now we know he was dressed up as his mom, but why?
To be fair, it's
What's
also
going
like
on?
all the like other characters. Like, what the fuck did just happen?
Yeah, because
Oh,
in
no,
Peeping
valid.
Tom,
Well, like I said-
Peeping Tom, I really didn't have that question because
Sure.
we got enough. Where in Psycho, you could say, well, is this a personality disorder? Is it suppressed abuse? Like we don't really know. So I think the exposition is okay for me.
Well, I mean, I shouldn't say I don't hate the explanation. I just feel I didn't need it. Now, granted, I didn't see this movie in 1960. I saw it in 1980 for the first time. So obviously, audiences are a little bit savvier.
I was just gonna say, I
What's
was
up
just
there?
trying to, I was just trying to say, I was gonna say like, fucking, I was trying to look at it from a '60s perspective in my answer too, because you know, like I said, a lot of people
Sure.
don't really know about these situations.
Absolutely. All right. Before we move on to the next point, I wanted to read a quote that I found that I actually really, really enjoyed. Now, unfortunately, the Reddit poster didn't put their name down, so I can't give credit for the quote, but this comes from a Reddit post about Peeping Tom. And the quote is as follows. The effect Peeping Tom had on Michael Powell's career is, in retrospect, grossly unfair. In my opinion, and of course, that's the opinion of the Reddit poster, Peeping Tom is the superior film. And I say this based on a comparison of the film's endings. The ending of Peeping Tom stays firmly within the narrative and therefore has an integrity that Psycho lacks. I find the ending of Psycho shockingly clumsy, dull, and jarring. Certain scenes from Psycho are so iconic, people forget about the silly lecture at the end. I found that quote kind of interesting because he's not necessarily panning Psycho for having that at the end. He's just saying that it's unnecessary. And like I said, and I agree with Mike, since we don't know as much about Norman's childhood before we get that explanation from the psychiatrist, there is warrant to have that in there. It's not like it's a useless scene that flat out shouldn't be in there. No, not at all. All I'm saying is that if that scene wasn't in there, I could have filled in the blanks myself. I could have, I would have just made, filled in the blanks of, Norman's mother was mentally abusive, maybe even physically abusive, which it turns out she was not physically abusive. But, I would have made that assumption and I would have been happy with that, kind of culmination in my head. I would have been happy with it. Now, the fact that Psycho kind of hands us that explanation from the psychiatrist, sometimes, like I said, it comes off a little heavy-handed, especially because we get this great finale where Sam, catches Norman in the act in his mother's clothing. And then we go to this slow explanation. It's almost like one of those Lord of the Rings type endings where they tack on an extra ending just to, add runtime to the movie. Again, I'm not saying that the scene is absolutely unnecessary. I'm saying that in my personal opinion, I could have lived without it. But as far as back to the original topic, no, I don't think that really had too much to do with the controversy for Peeping Tom, because like I and Mike have both said, we didn't need that ending. We didn't need a psychiatrist's explanation. So yeah, I dig that quote. So, all right. So cool. The next thing is something that we've already talked about, and that's relatability of these characters. With Psycho, Norman Bates, we don't relate to him in any way, shape, or form, at least in 1960. Obviously, today, Norman's quote of "we all go a little mad sometimes" is 100% accurate. Hell, I'm mad at the world right now, so I totally sympathize with Norman Bates. But the fact that you don't relate to him, but you do, at least at a small degree, relate to Mark Lewis, because, Mark owns a building or runs a building, whatever the case may be. He has a job. He has two jobs, actually, a full-time and a part-time. He had a bad childhood, an abusive childhood. It makes him relatable. And some people think that just that relatability didn't play well in 1960. People weren't ready to be relatable with a serial killer on screen, and it made them feel uncomfortable. So, once again, what do you guys think about that point, that the relatability of our main characters had a factor?
I could see that audiences might not have been ready for nuance to like a serial killer character, that like, hey, being a serial killer is bad, so I need my serial killer character to just be a bad guy. I don't want to have to think about all this other
love
stuff.
life.
Yeah. So I see that as valid, especially for the times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. Here's another one that I don't agree with, but I ran across it as a potential reason, so I wrote it down anyway. This one has to do with who is abusing the characters. Now, with Psycho and Norman Bates, it was his mother. And the 60s, some people call the 60s the culmination of the period of momism or Freudianism, you know, the whole, or nepotism even. Wait, not nepotism. What's the word I'm looking for? Shit, I can't
describe
think of it.
what?
When someone likes their own mother. Oedipus, there it is, the Oedipus complex. That's what I was trying to think of, the Oedipus complex. Some people are saying that because of Freudianism and Oedipus, that people were a little bit more accepting of a mother being abusive to their child, or at least mentally abusive, as opposed to the fact that a father is being mentally abusive to his son in this movie. Like I said, I don't put a lot of stock into this one, but I did run across it. So I was just going to see, what do you guys think? Do you think if Mark was tortured by his mother and Norman was tortured by his father, that these movies would be reversed, or it has no bearing at all?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough question to answer.
Yeah, you'd almost have to find someone that like watched the movie in that era and like what they thought about that, because I don't know really about the attitudes back then towards that type of thing. It's hard to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't put a lot of stock into this one, but it's something that I ran into, so I figured I would bring it up. I
saw it in Thunderbolts when they actually talk about like abuse and shit in that movie. It's kind of mind blowing.
Nice.
Like, you know.
All right. So let's see. What do I have next? The next one I have is the filmography of the directors. Now, with Hitchcock, he had already been doing suspenseful movies for upwards of 20 years before Psycho. With Michael Powell, he was doing more mainstream movies. Like, this is his first horror film, or even genre film. Like, he was doing war movies. He did The Red Shoes. So he was doing like romantic comedies and movies like that. So this one post that I found basically says that Hitchcock had been priming his audience for years to expect Psycho, with movies like Suspicion, Shadow of Doubt, Rebecca, Rope, etc., where main characters were either outright villains or at least suspected of being villains. Whereas, again, like Michael Powell, all his movies were, they weren't suspenseful. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there's any, does this theory hold any water?
Yeah, well, Hitchcock's like his advertising was great. Like the trailer for Psycho was great. It's just Hitchcock pretty much just going through the set, and here's the shower. Like it's kind of like memorable, like how he would advertise his own movies. So it's like his version of like maybe like a William Castle like shout out, where William Castle's just, hey, you were about to watch my movie.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a case of like audiences' expectations being subverted by the genre switch, whereas with Hitchcock, he was known for making thrillers, and not only what he made in the past, but like Derek said, he's pretty good at like advertising what's coming up and like being accurate.
Show because of that.
Yep, exactly. Just like William Castle straight up like tells you, this is the kind of movie I'm making. It's designed to entertain audiences, and there's going to be gimmicks and it's going to make it fun, but this is what it's going to be. And he pretty much delivers on that premise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. Down to the last couple here. This one, again, I don't give it any merit whatsoever, but again, I ran into it, so I got to bring it up. And that is racism. With Psycho, everyone in the movie is a white American. With Peeping Tom, the star is a German actor. Don't forget, 1960 is less than 15 years after the end of World War II. So does anybody think that the fact that Mark was played by a German actor, Karl Baum, had anything to do with this? I personally don't think so, but again, I wasn't there, so I can't really speak to it. So just opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I think it's stupid. But
yeah, I think it's stupid, but you never know because of the time period. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can't totally rule out, I guess, but I haven't seen anything to like support that necessarily, is what I'll say.
yeah, no, definitely.
That must be a Zack Snyder fan.
All right, and then the last thing that I have could have something to do with it, but I would say on a very small scale. Alfred Hitchcock did not have any critic screenings for Psycho before its release. Now, obviously, most people know that critics usually get to see a movie like a week or two before its actual theatrical release, and then they release the review like a couple of days before the movie's released. With Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock purposely had no review screenings for the movie. No one saw the movie until it came out officially in theaters. With Peeping Tom, Michael Powell did have critic screenings before the movie's release, which of course, you know, the critics panned it, forcing theaters to not even put it up at all. And the few theaters that did put it up pulled it after 5 days. So that's the last thing on my list. What do you think? Do you think that if Michael Powell didn't do critical reviews, that it might have stayed in theaters a little bit longer, or do you think that's just an outlier? It's a tough one, I know. Because I mean, to this day, directors don't do critical screenings. Like sometimes, like Michael Bay. Michael Bay is famously known for not screening his movies for critics before they come out. Now, granted, considering the quality of most Michael Bay movies, I think we know why that's the case. But I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like that kind of thing would hurt a movie more in this era because everything's so interconnected. Everyone's on top of everything beforehand. Whereas back then, you know, did people even know? I mean, like, I'm sure some people, like the cinephiles, would know that type of thing. But now it's so, if the studio doesn't want to screen a movie for critics ahead of time, it hits the internet. It's out there. Everybody already has things to say about it, like that week or two before. Whereas in 1960, like, how much buzz could something like that really get? I mean, maybe I'm under playing how much buzz that would get back then, but I don't know. It seems like it wouldn't have been something as prominent to not screen it for critics ahead of time. I guess the counter to that is like, well, back then with less media sources, like everybody would know about it because it'd be in like the entertainment section of your local newspaper where you go to get movie reviews, I guess. But it's almost like there's too much conjecture about an era I don't know enough about to give a qualified answer on what it was really like back then for like the general population versus now. Because like we all know what it's like now, but I would almost need someone for this type of question. Like, well, what was it like back then, leading up to a movie coming out?
Let me wake my dad up right now. Dad, what
yeah, I'll
like
go ask him.
If I still talk to my father, I might ask him too. Anyway, so there it is, folks. That's most of what I was able to find. I was able to find a couple of other little reasons that certain people had, but some of them were so incredibly ridiculous, like the time of year that it was released. You know, who gives a shit what time of year it was released?
Season.
Really? The season, like that has anything to do with it, and a couple of other things that I just decided weren't worth discussing here. But that's everything that I have, folks. So listeners, what do you think? Is it one or more of the things that I've already gone over here on the show? Or potentially, did I miss something? Maybe because I did 3 weeks of research on this, checking every site that ever wrote up anything about Peeping Tom or Michael Powell. And this was everything that I was able to come up with. But maybe we might even have a listener who was around in the 60s and might be able to give a more accurate reason why. Who knows? Maybe Michael Powell is a piece of shit and none of us ever knew that. There's always going to be variables.
Maybe he was like Bryan Singer. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, there's always going to be variables that we're not privy to as the viewing audience, Hollywood insider stuff or UK cinema insider stuff. So, please chime in, hit us up on the socials. Let us know what you think. Why did Peeping Tom destroy Michael Powell's career while Psycho enhanced Alfred Hitchcock's career? And I'm done.
Nice.
All right. Well, you are out of questions and we are out of show. So that is going to wrap up episode 68 of No More Room in Hell. Another episode that was a decent time in the making. But hey, I think it ended up better because you being able to research that stuff probably made the discussion better versus us trying to just rush to get it out the other times. So that kind of helped.
Hopefully.
I think.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So before we get the hell out of here, we want to know where else everyone can be heard. So Venom, what do you got?
Nothing new since the last time we recorded. Latest episode of Creature Comforts is episode 39, where we looked at 1980s humanoids from the deep. We do have our movie picked out for episode 40. We'll be recording that one in the coming weeks, and we'll have that out before the end of the month, definitely. So look out for that one. The Crystal Lake Gift Shop, episode 9, is still the latest episode of that one, where we looked at the Friday the 13th, the series episode entitled Root of All Evil, about a cursed mulcher of all things. But that ended up being a pretty fun episode. We're in the planning stages now for episode 10, so hopefully that'll be out sooner than later.
I think we'll get it out soon. I have a feeling it would have happened this week if it wasn't a holiday week. It just made it short.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty sure we'll be getting that one soon.
Yeah, I would imagine within the next week we'll get together, and because ultimately it's one of the easier shows. It's just a 44-minute episode of a TV show that we talk about and give our thoughts and things like that. So it's usually a fairly easy show to record and edit. So yeah, definitely look out for that before the end of the month. My guest spot on the Joe Blow Horror Show, to my knowledge, has not been released yet, but on that one, I got the chance to talk about my favorite giallo, which is, of course, Dario Argento's Deep Red. Not only my favorite giallo, but potentially one of my favorite horror movie scores ever. I adore the score of Deep Red, but obviously I get into that ad nauseum on that episode of Joe Blow. So as soon as that's available, I will definitely let all you guys know. And I'll let Mike talk about the main show and fresh cuts. And that's it for me.
All right. How about you, Derek?
Creature Comforts. Next episode's my pick. Fucking Black Scorpion. Wait for that to come out later this month. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. I love it.
Who's picks up next for this show? Is
it
you, Derek?
Yeah.
Derek, yep.
Good old episode 69 goes to Derek.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any idea what they're going to be yet?
When Derek giggles, I know it's going to be fun. Pinocchio 2. It's Pinocchio 2. Pinocchio's Revenge. Or what was it? Pinocchio 469. So the sequel is Pinocchio 470.
369.
369. Okay, there you go.
Double cherries.
Oh God, cherries and strawberries.
All right. Well, for me, fresh cuts, obviously every week, or most weeks it's every week, but pretty consistently. What was Ritual our latest one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ritual. Yeah, the Al Pacino exorcism movie.
Hoorah! Hoorah!
Dan Stevens.
By the
Oh.
by the time this comes out, it will have been out for a couple weeks. So, spoiler,
Yes.
wasn't a very good movie. I
hate to say it.
Yeah, I won't get into all our thoughts, but you just
No. I'll say one thing. I love Dan Stevens. I hated him in this movie. That's all I'm going to say. And it wasn't necessarily his performance so much as his character. But again, check out Fresh Cuts.
Yeah, the only other thing I got was my guest spot. I did mention it at the beginning, and I'll just repeat it now on the Vinegar or the Sin Bin show is what they call it, a monthly podcast about Vinegar Syndrome monthly releases. It was my second appearance on there, so I believe it just goes up on Moods'
YouTube?
616 or whatever. Yeah, his YouTube feed, and it is a video podcast, so I'm on cam for that.
Like, yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vincent podcast.
I mean, like
616.
The first half hour, 45 minutes, always feels like you're just doing 22 shots because it's like a similar kind of intro with like miscellaneous movie talk. So you always think it's going to be like a quicker episode, and then you're like, holy shit, we haven't even got to the movies yet. But
it's like
check
7
that
hours
out.
go by.
Yeah, that is already up, and then I think that's it. No other guest spots scheduled. I am kind of getting the itch to do like a non-horror movie show again, but I don't know. I just don't know if I have the time. But like,
let's do it.
I've been watching so much. Like,
don't you have your own show?
Non-horror.
Don't you have your own show that you haven't done in like 6 months?
I have a lot of things that like.
Wasn't it like 7 years?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. That's the thing. It's like there's shows I could bring back. There's ideas I could just start anew. It's just the problem is I have more ideas than I have time.
I felt very sad because we didn't get to do the Friends of Eddie Coyle.
What I need is like more of my like podcast friends to make shows, and I'll be like, oh, I'll be on it with you, because like that's my problem is like I don't have time for like the other stuff besides the recording. But
maybe we can figure out like a once a month thing. Who knows?
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
The gears never stop grinding. It's just trying to work it into now. I mean, I got a teenager and a almost 10-year-old, and it's taken more of my free time naturally. Heck. So, but yeah, that's it for this episode. Derek, do you want to say what movies, or do you want to hold those cards for now?
No, I could fucking mention it now.
All right,
we're going to be going to the year 1988, and we're going to be doing 2 movies from that time period. We're going to be doing Ken Russell's Lair of the White Worm, and we're going to be doing Lucio Fulci and Bruno Mattei's Zombie 3.
Ooh.
Nice.
Written by
I remember I saw Lair of the White Worm in theaters when it first came out, and I remember not understanding a bit of it. I eventually saw it again later on, but man, that first watch, I walked out of the theater like, what the fuck did I just watch?
That was me watching it for the first time when it would hit like the Sundance Channel on cable.
Dude, I watched that the first time when I was like 15, stoned. I was like, what the fuck am I watching?
Exactly. Am I supposed to be turned on by this snaky bitch or what?
I was.
Yeah, I was too.
I remember.
And then I found out she was in Liar Liar, and I was in love.
I remember being a kid and seeing that. I think it was either IFC or Sundance, because it would always be on one of those channels, and I didn't know what to make. I was like, "There's cool
I'm like,
things,
Hugh Grant's
but
in this
I don't
fucking
know."
movie. Like,
yeah,
what
is Hugh Grant doing? Because I was still even kind of new to Hugh Grant, but that didn't seem like the movie for Hugh Grant, and I was like, "Holy shit, what's going on here?"
And then Peter Capaldi's in it.
Yeah. I guess that's a preview for our Lair of the White Worm.
There you go. Jesus.
And then you
got a
Zombie
trailer
3,
for a
which is
podcast.
Yeah.
Zombie 3, where it's like fucking Lucio Fulci, but then Bruno Mattei directs some of the movie too. And Claudia Fragazzo wrote the screenplay. So that's going to be a fun trip.
2 styles in one. All right.
I don't own Zombie 3. I think I'm going to buy it. Nice.
Oh, it's great. It comes with the soundtrack too. The release.
Ooh, nice.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to get out of here. Thanks, everyone, for checking out episode 68. We'll try to be back sooner with episode 69. Let's say peace out to the listeners.
Peace.
To Michael Powell, if you can hear us up in heaven or down in hell, wherever the hell you are, Peeping Tom was an unrecognized masterpiece, and I hope you knew that before you died. So, yeah, and if you haven't seen Peeping Tom, by all means, check it out. It's worth seeing. It's a piece of history.
Shout out Kyle Brom for doing his inner Peter Lorre. Yes, I love you, Helen. Yes.
Peace.